Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Sunday from Edward T. Berry Ice Rink in Boston, Massachusetts. We have got a doozy of a matchup, the second of our two ranked matchups for UMass Boston men's ice hockey this weekend. This game was supposed to be played yesterday, but because of Ice Storm Keenan, this game gets pushed to today. But that just meant an extra 24 hours of fantastic build-up for this one between your UMass Boston Beacons and the 6th-ranked Hobart College Statesmen. My name is Mason Stauf. Seth Orensky will join me in just a few, but we have so much to parse through in this one. Two teams that come into this one separated by just a few points. We'll bring you the standings in a moment, but this is an absolutely fantastic matchup. UMass Boston coming off of a thrilling victory over another ranked team from the western side of New York, the Elmira College Soaring Eagles. And in the middle of that as well, UMass Boston women's hockey taking down Hobart's sister college, William Smith, by a 2-1 scoreline against the Herons. So we have an opportunity for a great weekend for UMass Boston hockey, capped off on this Sunday afternoon. The Beacons trying to get past this Hobart team. These teams separated by just 1 point in the conference standings. You can do the math on that. The Beacons with their 7 wins and those 4 additional points coming through, and just 1 point separating Hobart and your UMass Boston Beacons should be a fantastic one. As we pull up the NEHC standings coming into this one, mentioned it is a tight battle right now with the Beacons at 26 points. Hobart just one above them at 27. You see another ranked team in Babson right below them. The Beacons have done the double over the Beavers. Elmira was the victim just a couple of days ago. And as we welcome Seth Orensky into the broadcast, Seth, you look at this jam-packed NEHC standings, and the Beacons are in a great place right now, but one game can send you catapulting to the top, or depending on results elsewhere, toppling down to 4th.
Well, and we're at the point of the season where you have to start looking at the rest of the regular season. And for UMass Boston, it's not too bad. Johnson and Wales next weekend, a pair of games against the 9th-place team. Final weekend, 10th-place Castleton, 4th-place Skidmore. Get 9 points in a row, you're probably in the top 4. But for this one, the Beacons have any chance of a regular season title, they need to win today. Hobart and Elmira, 1-6, extra game left on the regular season. Huge, because even if the Beacons win today, Hobart can jump right past them. If Hobart wins today, the Beacons likely aren't catching them. I don't know if anybody catches them, and it's a long trek up to Geneva, New York for any of those teams in that 2, 3, 5, 7 spot. A little bit closer for Elmira, maybe a little bit closer for Skidmore. You don't want to be making a 6-hour drive for a New England Hockey Conference quarterfinal, semifinal, even final game. Support is clearly going to be going the other way.
The standings clearly show just how incredible a conference this is when the 6th team in the conference is currently ranked 7th in the entire country in the D3 ranks. We take a look at the all-time series between these two schools. Not a ton of history, but it's being grown throughout the years, and you look, and it's as tight as it could be, Seth.
Yeah, the biggest all-time meeting came back in 2016. UMass Boston defeated Hobart in the NCAA quarterfinals to earn their first ever trip to the Frozen Four. Hobart's had the better end of things since joining the NEHC. To be fair, Hobart's had the better end of things about pretty much anyone. They've gone back and forth with Norwich in terms of some regular season and tournament titles. The Beacons did win one regular season title. But the big thing for UMass Boston is they lost that last one 8-4. It was 2-2 after one. Hobart scored 5 in a row. Hobart has scored a lot of power play goals as of late against UMass Boston. 3 in that last one. The previous meeting, which we've got highlights for you, they scored 5 in a row. 2 power play goals. The Beacons have a pretty good power penalty kill. In fact, the best in the NEHC. Has to be better today against the Hobart system that has worked against them in the past.
You see, the last time these two teams met was just about 2.5 months ago. It was an 8-4 win at Hobart's home ice, although that was a game that you look at the final score, 5 second period goals for the Statesmen made the difference. The Beacons actually won the first period and tied the third, but it was a 5-goal second that made the difference for the Statesmen in the last one. You see, the last 5, the Statesmen have only dropped a couple of points, but they've picked up 4 wins in the last 5, in to be a fantastic matchup. The Beacons, however, love to play against these ranked teams. They've battled against Norwich twice. They've beaten Elmira. They've beaten Babson twice. Hobart trying not to be their next victim today. We do have some highlights from the last time that Hobart and UMass Boston met here back on February the 14th of 2020. It was a Hobart 5-3 victory. Let's take a peek. You see one of the streakiest hockey games ever, with the Beacons scoring the first 3 in the opening 20 minutes, then dropping 5 straight. That ended up being the final scoreline in that one. On Valentine's Day 2 years ago, 5-3, the Statesmen, at the time the 5th-ranked team in the country, getting the victory. We take a look at the team stats coming into this one. Seth, we've seen a lot of hockey at Edward T. Barry Ice Rink, but this could be one of the more high-scoring games that you see.
You know, you say that, but we thought it would be the same case on Friday night and ended up being 3-2 with an Elmira team that's in the top 10 in the country. What impresses me about Hobart, not only the top scoring team in the conference, one of the best defensive teams. They're top 5 in the country in goal margin, and they do it despite not having all that impressive stats on special teams. Their power play below the Beacons, their penalty kill below the Beacons. This is a really, really good, deep team. I mean, I've been doing this for a while, and you look up and down the lineup, Aaron McGoyan's been there for a while, Chase Bell, P.A. Martineau. They brought back a ton of players who maybe could have graduated, said, I want to come back for another run with this Hobart side. So much veteran experience. The Beacons are going to have to match that because Hobart had a full day sitting in that hotel stewing. They want to get a 6-point weekend. The Beacons desperately need points if they have a chance at a regular season title.
The teams came out quickly. With 5 minutes left on the clock, they are already set to go. So we will take a look briefly at the individual stats, but then we got to get you starting lineups and get set to go. But Ethan Nitkin and Aaron McGuyan, 2 fantastic goal scorers, 2 impressive players. They are going to be the 2 players to watch on either side.
Yeah, McGuyan and Nitkin are the top 2 goal scorers in the conference right now, alongside a player from Elmira. Chris Peters, though, the conference's leading point scorer. He's been great as of late. And a new face for this Hobart team, Luke Aquero, is having a really nice season, leads the team in points for the sophomore out of Yardley, Pennsylvania.
Starting lineups getting announced. Hobart going with their second line offensively. Jonah Alexander, Luke Aquero, who Seth just mentioned, and Will Crane. And then on the defensive side, Blake Coffey, Reed Lindsay, Liam LaSalle in between the pipes. We bring you the starting lineup for your UMass Boston Beacons, then it's national anthem and puck drop.
Corey Clifton, sophomore forward, Mattawa, New Jersey. Dakota Kincannon, junior forward, New York, New York.
Chris Peters, senior forward, Rochester, New York.
Michael Kapinski, freshman defenseman, Dallas, Texas.
Sam Best, junior goaltender, Hobart, Massachusetts.
The teams break up, and we take a look at the matchup between the pipes today. Sam Best, Liam LaSalle, two goaltenders who have had a fantastic season to this point. We talked about how, despite it being, on paper anyway, a potentially high-scoring matchup, it could be these two men who make the decision and make it a low-scoring game, Seth.
Yeah, Best was our one of our players of the game on Friday. Slow start, but really settled in. Held Elmira without a goal for the last 37 minutes in that one. LaSalle coming off a victory against Johnson and Wales the other night. Very strong numbers. A guy who has a career goals against average of under 2. He's been splitting time with Joe Hallstrom over his career, but he gets the start yet again today after starting both games last weekend against Elmira.
Worth noting that both these goaltenders started the game that was 8-4 at Hobart. Neither goaltender finished it. Sam Best played the first 20 minutes, and then he was lifted. Hobart, actually, make that the other way around. Sam Best played the first 2 periods and then got lifted. LaSalle played the first and then got lifted in that 8-4 final. We are all set to go. I think you can tell which team's who. UMass Boston in their home whites, trimmed in blue with the blue numbers on the back, moving left to right against LaSalle's goal. Hobart in the traffic cone orange, trimmed in white, moving left to right, or right to left, mind you, attacking Sam Best.
Yeah, these are new uniforms on the road for Hobart. They used to be purple, and it was a little bit easier to see. And maybe I should say watch, because you can certainly see these uniforms, but the orange does stand out a little bit more in terms of a unique uniform for any sport.
Certainly does. It's stand out, very stark contrast against the snow, although we were debating whether or not those would fluoresce in the nighttime. But either way, some fascinating jersey colors for Hobart. UMass Boston wins the draw with that second line attack in there. Move to the left side, shot comes in, moves to the left side, attempt that time. Whipped in by Pat Keegan.
And Mason, already a better start for the Beacons top line, who did not have their best game on Friday against Elmira. The second line has been dominant recently. But getting an early shot on target, forcing the early face-off. Good to see out of that group of Clifton, Kincannon, and Peters.
Peters did have 2 assists against Hobart a couple of months back, but he was also the player that had the worst plus-minus on the ice for UMass Boston in that game. So looking for a better outcome today. Again, a game a couple months back where UMass Boston led after 1, but 5 second period goals as Best. I think he tried to glove it, but then dropped it right in front of him. Hobart trying to counter, cross-ice pass goes through the circle and is brought behind the net. Beacons held back, kept in, and knocked back in there by Jared Patterson. Third line left defenseman comes back out toward Patterson, but he has to retreat. Hobart loses it over the blue line. Beacons trying to counter. Puck pings around in neutral ice and is knocked back, but mishandled by the captain, Evan Helt, who retreats. Helt listed on the front line today for that defense. We've seen him all up and down the line chart. upwards of an extra skater, now all the way up to the first line, but he does so many things as there's some extracurriculars right off the bat.
Well, it's just your prototypical pairing of an extremely elite offensive defenseman in Nolan Barrett, who at points when the Beacons are down at forward can step up and serve as that extra forward, and Evan Held, who hasn't scored in over 60 career games, but is so good at other things. He's a great stay-at-home defenseman and a leader on this team, the lone grad student returning for UMass Boston after the Beacons did not play last season.
Has the captain's C along his chest for a reason. The last time these two teams played, 19 combined minor penalties, 10 against UMass Boston, 9 against Hobart. So it would not be surprising to see the physicality continue for all 60 minutes or even more, depending on how this game goes. Cleared out of the zone, misplayed pass by the men in orange. Hobart takes it back. UMass Boston had that early shot. Hobart's controlled things for the last 2 minutes. That's a turnover. Nicely forced that time by the Beacons and Peters, but it's covered up by LaSalle, and we freeze.
I think that was Austin Maurer with the turnover in his own end. That's a bad look, and kind of fortunate. Peters had Corey Clifton in the low slot, elected to hold on to it, took a shot through traffic. LaSalle made the save. That's the kind of early mistake that could really cost you in a game that means a little bit more for UMass Boston, with Hobart having that game in hand and a lead over both UMass Boston and Babson. But still, a game you'd love to have to take some of the pressure away going forward.
Shot through traffic, nearly deflected in. That's held in at the left side. Barrett, mentioned him an excellent offensive defenseman, whipped that shot in from right point. Beacon's forecheck being applied, trying to keep it in the zone. Reed Lindsay gets smashed up against the boards, and Hobart does come away with it. It's knocked in there deep by Alexander, retrieved by the Beacons, and they can counter the other way. Peters darts around, tries the centering pass through the blue paint, but nobody's home.
It's a big hit on Jared Patterson in one end. The Beacons come in and he lays the lumber on Peters. It's interesting. We've seen a lot of both teams' first lines here in the opening 3+ minutes. I think maybe even getting some extra shifts as the Beacons haven't used their third or fourth lines to this point. Just because, hey, you have that extra day. Let's see if we can get an early one, and both teams coming out with some intensity.
Second line out there, Skinner, Walker, Nitkin. One back. This is Nitkin. Tries to play it off the bounce to Jeffrey Skinner, but just outshoots him. It's knocked back into the defensive zone. Best communicating. Taken just in front of him by Ryan Rowland. Cross-ice pass. A couple of passes by both teams going wayward. Hobart tries to counter in the 1-on-2. Gets knocked off the stick, and that's a potential tripping penalty. No, it is not, as it's held out at center ice.
Zach Tyson getting lucky there.
Opportunity. Didn't have the numbers, but tried to put on the moves, did Nitkin. But unable to get past the initial defender and get the shot on goal. Taken back by the Beacons, then by the Statesmen. Two players there for UMass Boston applying the forecheck, and they do get it back. It's Skinner who won it initially. Still kept inside the blue line zone. UMass Boston elects to go for the change rather than apply too much pressure. Knocked out to center ice and flipped in there deep by Artem Buzaveria for the Statesmen.
This is just the second time we've seen the Beacons' third line. Still don't think we've seen the fourth line. Very aggressive from Peter Belisle and his staff coming out today. It's always going to be interesting. How do you react with that weird day in between because of the snow? Well, thus far I've liked what I've seen out of UMass Boston, getting some good early chances.
Flung back in by Buzaveria, who heads to the bench. Beacons just had that line change, so they keep the 5 out there. Venturing forward and starting the break is Peters as the first line again gets back on the ice. Hobart brings it across the red line. Tapped away. Before heading to the change was Devin Moran. Beacons try and get one through traffic. That one cut off on the shot attempt by Jake Adkins.
I think Adkins actually caught the back of the skate of his linemate Carabelli there on a decent little chance of the fourth line.
Banks, Carabelli, Adkins, your fourth line today. Whistle sounded before that shot came in.
It's going to be an offside on Banks coming in from the far side. But, yeah, I mean, good early energy. This was something we didn't see as much on Friday against Elmira. Beacons had a couple good shifts. They wanted the power play, and things went haywire. Elmira dominated the rest of that period. Thus far, the Beacons are putting a little bit more pressure on Hobart in their defensive zone. LaSalle's had to make a couple good saves. And honestly, I'd like to see UMass Boston shoot a bit more. You saw that Nicken chance where he's 1-on-2. He's so hot right now, scored twice the other day. Sometimes when you're that hot, I'd rather see you try to shoot from a little bit further away, use a screen, than try to get really in tight.
Both first lines are in there offensively and defensively. Hobart trying to possess the puck in their offensive end. Cross-ice pass, handled on the backhand. Jake Gresh just kept it in under some pressure. Now it's pinned up behind the rear boards and taken away by UMass Boston. 2-on-2 if they can break quickly. Sent across by Peters. Trying to get the puck back was Dakota Concannon, but lost it.
Love that look from Peters. It's a bit dangerous as that takes an odd carry. Unfortunately, no Hobart players in the zone. But Peters was looking backside for Barrett, the defenseman joining the rush. Hobart didn't quite pick up on him, able to get a stick in the passing lane. But that's kind of what you need right now. If it's a 2-on-2, can you add that extra defenseman without potentially leaving a counterattack the other way? And there's a bad turnover.
That's a poor turnover and a little bit lucky as a shot went well wide that time by the Hobart attacker.
Trying to get Shane Shell after a really poor turnover by Keegan, who took his time and then fired an ill-advised pass right up the middle.
They don't even list Shell. Oh, he's the fourth-line right winger. As just like UMass Boston, we haven't seen a ton of depth so far for Hobart into the game, but they've gotten their fourth line in there and nearly had a great opportunity. Another poor pass right in front of Best, kept in by Hobart. Shot sails wide that time from the right side. This is a long shift right now for UMass Boston, trying to clear the zone, and Hobart is keeping it in there. Another turnover. Shot, Best holds, and that's a big break for UMass Boston as they can get those 5 off the ice.
Yeah, that was the fourth line for Hobart against the Beacons' second line, and just a couple of bad turnovers. The Beacons were fortunate. Shell with that wide open one-on-one chance, although Keegan did get in front to make the shooting angle a little bit more difficult. Shell, the fourth line right winger, still looking for that first collegiate goal. I mean, if you leave that for a guy like Maguian or Aquaro, that's probably 1-0 the other way.
Beacons do come away with it. They gain the zone onside. Trying for the quick shot, but no such luck. That time was Matthews. Beacons maintain possession of the puck just inside the rear red line. Moving behind the net. Double teamed, but getting out of it that time nicely. And now the whistle sounds, and the goaltender sprawled out. Players jockeying in front of him.
Whistle blew a little bit early there. The referee lost it as LaSalle reached out. That puck was still loose just outside the crease. Such a difficult play when you've got that many players in front of the crease. But a nice job by Alex Duncan, who's just so strong and physical, to be able to bull his way to the front of that. That could have easily led to a really good scoring chance.
Duncan going up against 2 defenders and was able to spin out of it and create something in front. Both teams have had looks. Goaltenders have been equal to them, though nothing overly acrobatic so far from either goaltender to make a stop. It's knocked back in there, deep retrieved by Barrett. Helt pokes it free nicely, and now the Beacons try and come the other way in a 3-on-3 situation. Player goes down for UMass Boston, but they maintain possession. Possessing behind the neck this time is Barrett. He sends it out, but it comes past the blue paint. And having to retreat with it are the Beacons.
Yeah, that was an interesting little pass from behind the net as the Beacons are going to be whistled for an icing there. UMass Boston was trying to find Rahoviak, the extra skater, backside, unable to quite get there. But a good look there from Nolan Barrett stepping up. As you see, Peter Belisle, 62-32 now in New England Hockey Conference play. 62-32-7. 30 games over 500 in one of the best conferences in all of Division III.
We showed you the standings coming into it with the number 7th ranked team in the entire D3 country, currently 6th in this NEHC. Just shows you how tight it is at the top and just how many amazing teams there are. But like Seth said, there are some opportunities toward the end of this campaign for UMass Boston to be able to pick up a number of points in a row. But this is one of those where it could go either way. And it could make a big difference if UMass Boston is able to create a late push for a regular season title. Still a long way to go, but this one so big in that regard. It's a turnover, and here's an opportunity the other way for Peters. You wouldn't want anybody else. Chris Peters on the backhand, stopped by LaSalle.
Yeah, really, really good job by LaSalle sticking with it and diving as Peters got a little bit of lift. You'd like a little bit more, but a great job by LaSalle keeping this game close. Peters, a little bit more of a playmaker, but certainly has the skill as Hobart tries to get too many players on the ice call. Almost had that one bounce up and hit a beacon. Very good early look for UMass Boston.
Peters has all those assists, as Seth mentioned, leads the conference in points as Hobart retrieves this one, moves behind Best's net, skating away from traffic and trying to create something there with Shane Schell as the fourth line's back out there for Hobart. Flip toward the net, not sure if it deflected off of Best or the side netting. Either way, UMass Boston gets it out of the zone.
I think that one hit the side of the post there from Kevin Lastman. Didn't quite have the angle, but a dangerous look.
Schell again takes the shot, this time from the other side of the ice as he did his first one. Fourth line's creating some opportunities for Hobart. We haven't seen the depth for UMass Boston create some opportunities. It's been so much of that first and second line, but I like the fourth line from Hobart.
I like the fourth line from Hobart. I like the fourth line from UMass Boston. We haven't seen a ton of them, but they've been creating all weekend. And thus far, I think both coaches are going to be decently happy. UMass Boston's had more chances. Both teams have had some turnovers in their own end they really want back, but thus far no damage as we've got a intentional offside there on Hobart. Referees blow the whistle and the Beacons get an offensive zone draw, and they're going to stick with this third line of Matthews, Moran, and Duncan.
Matthews with 5 goals on the season, Duncan 6 as that one escapes the zone. Moran's chipped in a couple as well. Darting away from traffic is Rowland. Surveys, looks for a teammate, has his line mate, Pat Keegan. Keegan sends it down ice, but he ices the puck, and we go back down the other way.
No, I think they're going to get Duncan for tipping that into the netting, so it's going to come out of the zone, but we'll get a draw just outside the Hobart end as Duncan did a good job of just getting the twig down, but couldn't quite keep it low enough to really get the Beacon set up in the zone.
Right dot. Face off, won by Hobart. 9:27 to go in the opening period. We remain goalless. Flipped in there deep by the Statesman's extra skater Matthew Wooth, number 5. Beacons clear the zone, bring it towards center ice where it's dumped in there deep. Played on the Karam. Goaltender nearly knocks this goal right off its moorings, but it's kept alive. The Beacons keep it in right point, send it in there deep, battling with it on those rear boards. But it does eventually come away to the men in orange. And now look at this speed skating up front by Matthew Iasenza. And he gets knocked down to the ice, and we're going to have our first power play coming up for the Statesmen. Could be a double penalty if they get 2 tripping calls in the same play?
Well, they're going to get Barrett. Oh, my. The linesman, Burke, it seems like the ice is a little bit extra slippery in that spot. So Barrett had the initial penalty. Then the Beacons certainly took down a second player when the initial penalty was called. I don't know if they're going to put 2 up here, but it looked like there was some pushing and shoving afterwards, and there's still words right now between Matthew Iasenza and Barrett.
Barrett's going to get the tripping call. And it does look like that is the only Beacon who's headed to the box as Evan Helt communicates with one of the officials, Bradshaw.
And Helt might just be saying, hey, I mean, our guy wasn't the only one there who was doing something he shouldn't have been doing. This is big right now for UMass Boston. It's been 2.5 months, but Hobart 3 power play goals the last time these two teams played. That was a huge difference in the game. The last 2 times they've played, they've scored 5 power play goals and 1 shorthanded goal. Beacons have been decent 5-on-5, in fact, pretty even, but it's been special teams that's cost them.
Beacons committed 10 minor penalties the last time, and as Seth said, Hobart scored on 3 of them. This is a team that has a power play percentage just a little bit south of 30%. This is a dangerous power play unit for the Statesmen. They play on the 1-2, glove down. Surveying things and waiting for things to develop is Blake Coffey. He gives it up to Jonah Alexander. You have the second line attack and the first line defense in there for the men in orange. Knocked in there, Coffey. His shot was deflected as it got close to Best. Coffey gets it back directed again. The target, Jonah Alexander, who's camped out right in front of Best. It escapes the zone. And 55 seconds down on the power play, Beacons go for the change.
Yeah, good job by UMass Boston to get a kill through the first minute, not allow too many good looks there for Hobart's top unit.
Hobart went for the changes as well. Third line attack in there. You see Chase Bell, the alternate captain, number 4, bringing up the rear as it's brought into the zone. Again, knocked in there deep. 40 seconds left on the extra man for Hobart. Beacons very compact with a square formation right in front of Best. Can Hobart break it down? They go on the one-timer and they hit their own man. Still kept in the zone though. Jake Gresh waits for it. It goes through the legs of Chase Bell, and then he gets pinned up against the boards. 19 seconds left on the power play, and that's well done by the men in blue.
Yeah, good kill thus far, and the Beacons fortunate that absolute cannon of a shot hit Zach Tyson on the way through. Fortunately, he's okay because there was a lot of power behind that look from the near side.
Austin Maurer is in there. We are back to even strength hockey. Beacons get their last man on the ice. It's tipped behind. Nicely done by Andy Walker. Hobart still possessing the puck as if they were still on the power play. But we're back to 5-on-5. There's somebody that's left open on the left side. Opportunity to bring it across. Beacons come away with it. Can they break? Gaining the zone this time. Now battling with it down behind. Jared Patterson has it back for Hobart. Comes all the way back out. UMass Boston retrieves. It's Barrett. Darts it in there, looking for Corey Clifton, who's applying pressure. Nice check there by Kincannon as well as the Beacons apply the forecheck, but it doesn't work that time. 3-on-2 potential opportunity. It's blocked out front. It's still back with Hobart, though. They try the reverse pass. They try it once, twice. No luck either time. And the Beacons take it back, but here comes Hobart again, applying pressure.
Well, you can see why Hobart's so good offensively. Their defensemen get involved a lot. We saw Coffey very involved on the power play. And that time, it was Jared Patterson who was leading the rush, not once, but when the Beacons turned it over, he was still involved in that little 2-on-1.
It was Brendan Howell who tried to center the puck twice on the backhand, failed both times.
And how often do you see the forward trying to find the defenseman on the backhand? Or just period?
We are still goalless as we approach the 5-minute mark. Two teams that average over 4 goals per game, but nothing yet. Hobart tries to get into the short corner. Knocked away from Aaron Maguyan, who's camped out in front of Best, and he's the player who has the puck on his stick now. Heavy hit was delivered just behind the play. Knocked down by Ethan Nitkin. Nitkin goes to chase. The high puck settles its way down to Blake Coffey, who's back in there. Beacons take it back. Dealing with some pressure is Nitkin again. Sends it cross ice. Played on the carom nicely by the Statesman. Comes back into the defensive zone where Matthew Iasenza waits for it. And now darts forward. Look at the speed from Iasenza. Shot comes in just high. Second one-time shot. Went just to the left of Best, and then he gloves this one without too much difficulty. And we pause with 4:14 to go.
Yeah, some good zone time there for Hobart. They've certainly been growing into this game. They're a team that, I mean, they're going to get scoring from up and down the lineup. Even guys on the fourth line. I mean, Mark Benamarito has 35 career points as the fourth line left winger. I like what I'm hearing from UMass Boston's bench. They're very used to playing here, especially over the last month, without fans. This has been, I think this is game number 8 in a month plus without fans. They're bringing the energy, and they're very vocal.
Both players wearing number 11 flying up the ice. Devin Moran for UMass Boston. Matthew Iasenza for Hobart. The 2 third-string left wingers. Boy, can they skate. Shot in from distance through traffic. Nearly tapping it home, but no luck that time for UMass Boston. Getting in the play, Duncan again. He is certainly being involved. This third line is certainly making things happen as it's chipped in there deep, kept in right on the blue paint. Duncan doesn't have any support but allows a full change, or at least two of the members of his line to change before he himself heads to the bench. Beacons applying pressure. Hobart finally gets it past the blue. Will Crane goes down to the ice on another nice hit, this time by Jacob Banks.
Yeah, Banks, nice job of keeping that low enough. It was close to an elbow towards the head, but that was more shoulder to shoulder. And now I think we're going to see Banks go.
I was going to say, right after we say that, nobody's put their hand up. So.
Oh, the hand came from the referee behind the play.
There it is.
And then there's another hit. This is the second time we've seen this. Where the Beacons commit a penalty. It's definitely a penalty, but there's a little bit of retaliation from Hobart. So I think they're actually going to get Carabelli instead of Banks. But, okay, last thing you really want to do is give up a power play this late in the period, 2:58 to go. You kill it off, you're going to have a 58 seconds of 5-on-5 hockey. But the Beacons did the exact same thing on Friday. Gave up a late power play in the first, gave up a goal, and then turned it around. Love to keep this at 0-0, but we've seen the Beacons come from behind before.
Hobart, after an extended scrum, eventually wins the draw. Reed Lindsay has the puck on his stick, moves it behind. Hobart, again, that patient build-up in the power play, trying to force UMass Boston to collapse in on themselves nearly across the blue paint and poked in far post. But it's knocked in deep. Jonah Alexander was the closest to it for the Statesman.
Hobart's had a little bit of bad puck luck where the puck is bouncing around, and especially in the power play, it's hit their own players or it's bounced to a Beacon. That could have been really good chance right in front of the crease if the Hobart player had been able to find it.
Coffey is battling in there with Alexander, but UMass Boston comes away with it. No nonsense clearance down ice. Two defensemen come out, two new in.
And I've liked what I've seen from UMass Boston, especially against this first unit. I mean, they've got so much talent for Hobart on this first unit. Thus far, they haven't been able to create all that many chances through their first, 3 minutes of power play action.
61 seconds gone on the extra man. You have Krapinski and Roland who are in there defensively, although, yep, it's still those two. And then Andy Walker is out there with Alex Duncan. Hobart wins the faceoff. Beacons just waiting for something to happen in front of them. They're more than happy to sit back and wait for Hobart to come at them on the penalty kill. Knocked in there, Best. Pretty easy cover. And we'll move to the right face-off circle as we view it. 38 seconds left on the power play. 1:36 to go in the period. Seth mentioned that this game could be deceptively low scoring, and we are still waiting for the breakthrough as we get into the closing stages of period number one.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the point of the season where maybe you're a little bit more confident with your defensive responsibilities. These feel like more like playoff games, and sometimes in those playoff games, even high-scoring teams end up playing one-goal games where, hey, maybe Beacons did this on Friday. We're ahead 3-2 heading into the third. We're going to focus on defense the entire period, playing safe, not avoiding our offensive responsibilities, but much rather win 3-2 than have to put up 2 or 3 more goals.
Hobart had one good look early, but since then it's been a relatively disappointing power play for them. We're down to the final 5 seconds. Beacons just trying to pin it up against the boards and wait for that last skater to come back out onto the ice. We are inside of a minute. Here comes that last skater. Beacons back to full strength. Joining the fray is Carabelli right out of the box. It comes right to Gino. Doesn't have numbers, so he just flips it in there, then goes to chase himself. Has support just behind him from Jake Adkins as the fourth line's back out there late. Adkins tips it toward the net. It goes just behind where Carabelli chases with 25 on the clock. Check applied. Beacons keep it in the zone. Is there one last look for UMass Boston in this first period? Darted toward the net. Is there an opportunity in front? It comes in behind. And that may be the last major action in period number one. Oh, no.
Big
it hits
mistake.
the rafters and the Beacons are going to have an opportunity in their offensive zone. 8 seconds is plenty of time to win a face-off and get a nice little quick hitter going.
Jared Patterson, he had all the time in the world. The Beacons were backing up, just trying to play it safe. And Patterson, it's a low rafters here, just clipped one of the rafters. Really easy call for the referees.
Adkins. Check that. Corey Clifton in on the face-off, but Hobart won it, and that should do it for the opening 20 minutes. The horn sounds, and we head to break with a scoreless 0-0 first period action. But you can't say it was entertaining, Seth.
No, good chances either side. I think it was a little bit more open the first 3 to 4 minutes. We saw a lot of both teams' first and second lines, and then we saw a more traditional hockey game. Both teams cycling through the first 4. UMass Boston's not going to be happy. They've gone to the box twice, but a good job by the penalty kill. And both goalies have played well. The best chance, I would say, in this period came on that Chris Peters one-on-one with Liam Lassell. A great save on the backhand shot. Both coaches, they're going to talk about minor adjustments. I don't think either team has to make anything massive. But this second period, huge. The last 2 times these two teams have played, Hobart's outscored the Beacons 5-0 after the Beacons led 3-0 and 3-2. So UMass Boston doesn't have a lead, so they shouldn't be coming out confident or cocky, but they have to know that Hobart is going to come at them in a way that they haven't necessarily been prepared for the last 2 times they've played.
Absolutely. The second period has been the undoing of UMass Boston the last couple of times, but we mentioned this is the second game this weekend for UMass Boston against a highly ranked opponent. They took care of business the first time, clipping the Soaring Eagles by a score of 3-2 on Friday night. Let's take a look at those highlights. And we welcome you back inside Edward T. Barry Ice Rink. First intermission between the number 6th ranked team in the country, the Hobart Statesmen, and your UMass Boston Beacons. It looked even on paper. It was even on, or it looked even on the ice, and it was pretty even on paper as well. As we take a look at your first period stats, shots, saves. Beacons are winning more face-offs, so you got to be pretty happy if you're this coaching staff of UMass Boston in this first intermission.
Yeah, and this is such a – I just want to go back to it a little bit. The huge snowstorm in Boston. Hobart goes down to Johnson, Wales. They play Johnson, Wales Friday night. They drive up to the Boston area. They stay in the hotel Friday night. Normal routine for a team in the NEHC. Having yesterday where you're stuck in a hotel, maybe they get a conference room and watch some video, but couldn't really go out. If you're from New England, you know exactly why you couldn't go out. If you're not, the visibility was insanely low yesterday, and there really wasn't anywhere open. So confined to the hotel, that had to be difficult. For UMass Boston, the question was more, okay, huge win Friday. How do we celebrate this win, but also make sure we're ready for Sunday? And thus far, I think both teams did a good job mentally preparing for this game, and their coaching staffs made sure their guys were ready. Faceoffs are great because the Beacons are a team that does struggle at points in the faceoffs. What I like, and it's a stat not up there, Hobart over 2 on the power play, just 2 shots on goal. That's a good job on the PK by UMass Boston. A couple shot blocks, including a shot that was off of a Hobart player. But thus far, so good for UMass Boston against the power play that has really had their number the past couple of seasons. These stats are great, but in the end, I think both of us anticipate there being goals scored in this game. Maybe not 8 to 10 like the two teams' average combined, but it's going to be really interesting to see when a team strikes first how the other team responds, because it could be a landslide like we've seen from Hobart in the past where Beacons scored 3 in a row. Hobart came back with 5 in a row and put the Beacons out of it. Or does one team get one and then a couple shifts later the other team gets one and we get a really, really good playoff-style game. It'll be interesting to see how this game goes because, again, Hobart 1 point ahead of the Beacons. Beacons can jump Hobart. Hobart still has that game in hand, but really put the pressure on the Statesmen. Or Hobart extremely content today, especially with the win, but even a tie does a lot for them because they would open up a 2-point lead on Babson, keep a point lead on UMass Boston, and have that extra game in hand. It would be tough to catch Hobart, especially the way they've been playing this entire season.
Yep, absolutely. But the Beacons did come back from a couple down against Elmira, so even if they do concede first, they have shown within the last 48 hours that they can bounce back from that. But Hobart is known to go on a scoring run, and they've done it this season. They've done it in past season against UMass Boston. Only time will tell, as we still have about 9 minutes to go before we kick off second period action. We take a look around Beaconville. Still have lots of sports going on amidst this Winter Storm Keenan. Friday night, 2 games for UMass Boston. You see women's hockey falling against Elmira before they were able to knock off William Smith yesterday on the road. Men's basketball getting a nice 6-point victory against the Panthers of Plymouth State. But then you get those it's storm cancellations. I'm used to saying COVID cancellations and postponements at this point. But track and field and women's basketball yesterday both canceled. Women's basketball against Coast Guard will definitely not be rescheduled because that is an out-of-conference game. We do want to take a look at some more highlights. We've already seen UMass Boston against Elmira. Now we take a look on the women's side. It was a 5-2 victory for UMass Boston women over the Huskies of Southern Maine last Saturday. Kaylee Kozik with the hat trick. Kaylee Kozik with her second career hat trick in that 5-2 victory over Southern Maine. We take a look around the New England Hockey Conference, as even despite this New England blizzard that happened yesterday, we still did get 2 games in. Babson taking care of Skidmore without too much issue. Babson, who UMass Boston have beaten twice this season, winning that one by a final score of 5-1, and then Skidmore taking on Southern Maine and winning that one by a score of 7-3. And then today, Norwich, the number 13 team in the land, and one of that giant clump of 6-7 teams, all in a race for a title in the regular season and jockeying position in the NEHC tournament, taking on New England College. That one getting to the tail end of the first period, the Cadets leading that one by a score of 1-0. Don't have a ton of highlights from the first period. It was a fairly even, but not a ton of scoring opportunities on either side. But you see Hobart trying to create something, and no luck there. Alex Duncan battling in front. That was one of the first times we saw some extracurricular activity as well. Pass in behind. We talked about some bad puck luck. Seth mentioned it for Hobart. There was another opportunity there as it caromed off of Patterson. And then a nice opportunity up front that couldn't get cashed in. The closest the Beacons came was a nice pass up to Chris Peters, who was unable to convert. Tried to take the goaltender off to his right and deke it past him on that near side, but unable to cash in that time, and we remain goalless after 20 minutes. Take a look at that upcoming schedule. Seth mentioned it. This has been the gauntlet that the Beacons have had to run over the last couple of weeks with Elmira, Norwich,
And Babson.
Who they did the double on. But after this, things calm a little bit, and if you can pull a win today, get Elmira, get Hobart, and then go into a double against Johnson and Wales, and then Castleton, who you've already beaten by double digits just a couple of weeks ago, it will go a long way for UMass Boston, catapulting themselves to the top and potentially staying there at the top of the NEHC title.
Yeah, I mean, even if UMass Boston can't catch this Hobart team, let's say even if UMass Boston beats Hobart today, Hobart still has that game in hand. Hobart wins out, UMass Boston wins out. Beacons aren't the number 1 seed, but getting the number 2 seed where you're hosting each of the first 2 rounds is huge. As we take a look at Hobart's schedule, they've got Castleton at home this upcoming Friday. Then they've got Skidmore, who's been sneaky good. Then a huge weekend against New England College and Norwich. So they've got to face 2 of the top 6. The Beacons only have 1 of the top 6 left. So that'll be a little bit interesting. The other thing, as we take a look potentially a little bit past the NEHC tournament, is all of a sudden the Beacons have moved from 23 in the pairwise rankings, which if you're not familiar with D3 is how they determine who gets into the NCAA tournament. So that's the RPI of Division III hockey. Beacons went from 23, where you're never thinking about getting in at large bid, up to 12. Play Hobart today. That's a win would push them up a little bit more. All of a sudden, if you can get to that 7 or 8 range, you're possibly in the converse, or you're possibly finding yourself an at-large bid if some of the teams ahead of you win their automatic qualifiers and win their conference tournaments. The interesting thing is, in the NEHC alone, you've got 3 teams ahead of UMass Boston who sits 12th. Babson, who the Beacons are 2-0 against, is 6th. Elmira, who they're 1-1 against, is 7th. Hobart, who's the number 1 team in the conference, the number 1 team ranked in the USCHO.com poll, is 8th. So this is a big game for Hobart as well, as they try to help themselves. The longer you can make it into the conference tournament, the more of those teams you can beat, the better chances you have, as UMass Boston is already playing their 7th game this season against the team ranked in the top 8 of the pairwise rankings. Strength of schedule goes a long way, and the Beacons looking for yet another win. 2 against Babson, 1 against Elmira. Win today would be huge.
It certainly would. The only team that the Beacons dropped 2 against was against Norwich. Both those games were close. The Beacons definitely want the first one back.
Well, they tied the first one.
Right.
But it felt like a loss because they were ahead 3-1 with under 2 minutes to go, and Norwich got 2 back in their – it was the NEHC opener. We're talking about all the way back in November. But that was a crushing one first for the conference standings, because that was 2 points dropped for UMass Boston. Instead of getting a win, they got a tie. but also hurts them a little bit because guess who's 5th in the NEHC in the pairwise? I think Norwich sits 16th.
Right.
So ton of NEHC teams that are ranked highly not only in the USCHO.com poll, which doesn't really mean that much in terms of national rankings done by media, but the pairwise rankings, that's a big deal. And 5 in the top 16 means anytime you beat one of those teams, it really helps you. Anytime you play one of those teams, it's going to help you either way a little bit with your strength of schedule.
The Beacons currently playing their second to last home game of the regular season. It's been a crazy season for a variety of reasons, most importantly, of course, the COVID pandemic. But we are getting into the closing stages. Johnson & Wales next weekend is the last home game for your men. You still have Johnson & Wales on the road the night before that, as well as finishing the season at Castleton and at Skidmore the weekend of February the 11th and the 12th, the week before the conference tournament begins. The teams have returned to the ice. We are set to go for second period action. You are watching the Beacon Broadcast Network. Mason Stauff alongside Seth Orensky on a Sunday afternoon, a game postponed 24 hours due to Winter Storm Keenan. That ripped through the area, deposited upwards of 2.5 feet, depending on where you are. But we are, for the most part, dug out of the snow, although it took a little bit of time earlier to get up here. And we are set to go for second period action. No score between Hobart and your UMass Boston Beacons. Teams, of course, switch ends. Hobart dressed like traffic cones in the orange and white, attacking best off to our right. Beacons in their home whites trimmed in blue, attacking the goal off to our left. That's being held by LaSalle, who covers and freezes opening stages second period.
Mason, and again, so much better from the Beacons top line. On Friday, Matt and I were talking about how they kind of got lost a little bit. They looked good on the power play. They got some assists, but didn't do as well 5-on-5. We've seen them create a lot of chances, especially early. Each of the first 2 periods, they get a chance. They force an offensive zone draw, and that's what you want to see out of that top line.
Well, we've certainly said the names of Peters, Kincannon, and Clifton more than we have Maguyan, Buzavera, Tyson, that first line for Hobart. Mentioned Aquero as well, has 20 points, and I think other than bringing up him in passing, we really have not said much about Hobart's first 2 lines, as the Beacons have nullified their top 2. It's been third, fourth lines for Hobart that have been a little bit more active through the first 20-plus minutes.
Helps to have that depth. I mean, sometimes your top line, your second line are going to get shut down, whether they're having an off night or the opposing team's doing some really good work. Both of these teams have the confidence in their third and fourth line. After all, for UMass Boston was Devin Moran, the third line left winger, his second collegiate goal that was the difference in the win over number 7 Elmira on Friday.
Hobart brings it forward. Momentum taken out of it that time as it crossed through the blue line, and the Beacons just knock it all the way back down. It wraps its way out, so no icing. And how about that added pressure? Centering pass in front, and it's blocked by a defender on its way through, and now the Statesmen try and counter the other way.
That wasn't blocked by a defender. That was Shane Shell, the fourth line right winger, who I feel like every time it's on the ice we talk about him with a great back check.
Nearly a beautiful pass in behind. Nitkin trying to find Skinner, and his puck just about a foot too far in front of his teammate. Hobart comes the other way. It's been a very entertaining first 100 seconds of the second. Both teams going either direction and putting some pressure on the goals. Hobart keeping it alive. Move behind the net, brought out to left point. Took a long time to get there before it was sent back in once again. And we will come out to neutral ice. It looks like no. We'll go back into the zone.
I believe they got they thought the puck might have been stuck in the Beacons uniform, and we got a quick whistle. It couldn't have been a hand pass in the zone, and it's not a penalty. High stick.
So heading in to draw the face-off, Chase Bell. He wins it for the Statesmen. But it does eventually escape the blue line, past the red, and the Beacons are able to reset things defensively. Knocked back in there. Being pinned against the boards this time for UMass Boston is Ryan Rowland. Beacons do come away with it. They don't have the numbers, so just sent in there deep by Duncan, who heads for a change. Rims its way around the boards to come back out just below us towards center ice. Cross ice pass. Keegan knocks it in, then heads for a change himself. Ryan Bogan tried to keep it alive, but it comes out of the zone, and here's an opportunity potentially for Hobart to direct it goalwards.
It's going to be a penalty on the Beacons. Jacob Banks was trying to get back in position, and who else? It's Jared Patterson. I feel like we keep saying the same names for Hobart.
Absolutely.
It's the fourth line right winger and the third line left D that have caused the Beacons the most problems in their own defensive zone, and that time it was the speed and the willingness to get into the rush there for Patterson, who doesn't have a goal this year, has 3 assists in 11 games, but you'd never know it from the way he plays. He's been ultra aggressive offensively, and he draws, I'm not sure if they're going to call an interference or a little bit of a hook there on Banks, and it leads to Hobart's third power play. The Beacons yet to get power play their way.
It was hooking, I believe, was the eventual call. So UMass Boston 2 minutes in the box. Hobart, their third look at the power play. Tried to get it in front, taken away in the slot, and just easily cleared down ice. Not make any silly mistakes, Roland.
That was Maguian with the turnover. He's the guy to watch. 4 power play goals this season, 14 goals on the year. Has not really gotten many looks in the power play to this point.
Beacons perfectly content with this. Puck pinned up against the boards down on the right side short corner. Hobart does get away with it, trying to get it away. Carabelli. Gino, the epitome of a fourth liner, very physical. Does have a penalty today against him already, but he's the perfect guy you want in there on a penalty kill. Out in front, and again, the puck luck just not there for Hobart. Just when it looked like they had an opportunity, it squirts away from Maguian.
Yeah, Maguian in a really good spot, was just trying to turn, and the puck bounced over his stick. Otherwise, he would have had a shot from in close on best. Good for the Beacons, but at some point you know that Hobart's going to get 1 or 2 of these bounces and get a good look off.
47 seconds left on the extra man for the men in orange. Statesman surveying. At the top, Blake Coffey gets it back. Plays a 2-man game off to our right. His partner out on that side is the alternate Captain Bell, and they score! P.A. Martineau, the captain.
Yeah, really nice tip there from Martineau. Didn't fully shoot it, just deflected it off the pass from Chase Bell, and it's 1-0 Hobart. UMass Boston never fully got the clear. They got it out of the zone, but they were never able to send it down the length of the ice. Some tired legs for the Beacons. And Blake Coffey, who's one of the better power play specialists for Hobart, was able to stay out there for the duration of that power play. Felt like that one was scored maybe 70, 80 seconds in. Coffey never left the ice.
Martineau, the captain, gets his 5th goal of the season and his 10th point. The Sherbrooke, Quebec native, as this one gets sent just across the blue paint. Second look at it, but cut off before it could get there by one of the defensemen. And we're going to have a penalty. Is this also against UMass Boston, or does it go the other way? There's a tripping call, and the Beacons are going to have 2 minutes right after they concede on the power play. They will have an opportunity on the power play.
Huge, because you always talk about the shift after, at least we do on the Beacons Broadcast Network, and the Beacons came out aggressively, put the pressure on. It's going to be 2 minutes on Austin Moorer, the defenseman out of Spring City, Pennsylvania. Now a chance for the Beacons power play that operates an even higher clip than Hobart's. They went 2 for 6 up at Hobart. UMass Boston comes in at over 26% on the year.
Knocked in there, Best. Initially thought about putting it down and sending it to a defenseman, and instead wisely freezes it after that.
Well, the Beacons took exception to Matthew Iasenza giving Sam Best a snow shower on what is not a fun day in this rink. It's 21, feels like 7 outside, but when you open up the Zamboni door, that cold air creeps in fast, and feels like 7. It was nice out after yesterday's -5, -12, but you don't want to be in the rink too long when it's a feel-like temperature below 10 degrees. Especially wet.
No, absolutely not. 5 minutes gone, second period. Hobart has broken the deadlock. Shot comes in, blocked. Defenseman got in the way before he took a tumble to the floor. Another player's down for UMass Boston. This time they do not freeze play. They Doesn't look like it was a head injury, so they play on and getting back up gingerly. And then does he have a look in front? He tried to go on the backhand. Ethan Nitkin went down for about 5 seconds, then gets up and nearly scores on the backhand.
Beacon's bench was absolutely irate, screaming for what they thought should have been a 5-on-3. Chris Peters doesn't wear a letter, but he's the de facto captain when Helt isn't out there having a word with the referees. UMass Boston feels a little aggrieved right now after what was a pretty big hit on Nitkin, who pretty big guy.
Ethan Nitkin, 6'2", out of Miami Beach. Beacons bring it forward into the zone. They are onside, just barely as they did so. But Hobart is able to clear, and is there an opportunity for a 2-on-1 on the shorthand? Cross-ice pass, shot again. No, it was a beautiful pass on the second attempt, but the Beacons are able to get a poke check in there.
Maybe a little bit too much passing there between Alexander and Aguero, as Chris Peters, the forward, covering for the defenseman Barrett as the Beacons go 4 forwards and 1 D. And Peters did just enough at the near post. Didn't get a piece on the pass, but held off the forward. I think it was him and Alexander on the near side and Aguero on the far side. Typically, you want the guy who leads your team in points to be shooting there, but maybe a bit too unselfish.
Aguero does have 20 points, so certainly not someone you'd shy away from shooting. And Alexander's got 15, so a little bit too unselfish from two high-scoring players on this Hobart team. For the most part, everybody on Hobart wants to score, and they are pretty adept at it, averaging 4.8 goals a game. But that time, tried the extra pass, and it didn't pay off as the de facto captain on the ice, Peters, got in the way.
Beacon's fortunate there. Blake Coffey, maybe in his home rink, he knows exactly where to hit that on the boards. First time in Boston in 2 years, and he puts it out of play, so the Beacons get another offensive zone draw.
35 seconds left of 5-on-4. That one escaped past and moved back. Ryan Bogan couldn't keep it in the zone, and having to retreat all the way back is Keegan. With just 23 seconds left of 5-on-4 hockey for the Beacons, trying to answer quickly after they got pegged back on their own power play attempt. Hobart defending well inside the final 10 seconds of the power play, and the Beacons are really only going to get one good look at the goal that LaSalle was able to hold.
Yeah, good energy on the shift before the power play, but the Beacons unable to come up with anything, and now it's, okay, we're down a goal. Certainly not the end of the world, but can we keep creating chances? Because the last thing you want is Hobart to all of a sudden get a second or even a third.
If you're joining us late, this is the period, the last 2 times that these teams have met, where Hobart has gone off. They had 5 second period goals as best. That was a bit of a risky play by the defenseman, just not sure where he was hitting it. Knocks it almost back towards the crease, and Best alert to it.
Yeah, that was Keegan who had the pass from behind the net in the first period that was picked off right at the blue line. Dangerous play, a little bit unlucky with the bouncing, but huge that Best recognized it and dove on top of it before a Hobart player could get there.
And then mentioned it was 5 goals the last time these teams met in the second period for Hobart, and that's another high sticking call. But then you go back to Valentine's Day 2 years ago, and again, the Beacons, a 3-goal first period, wiped out by 5 consecutive Hobart goals for a 5-3 scoreline. So this is a Hobart team that once they get rolling, they have a habit of making games that are pretty close look pretty ugly pretty fast.
Offside there on Hobart. It's so huge for UMass Boston right now to react. And they were able to draw the power play, created a little bit of chance. Didn't get all that much on the power play. Can you come out over these next 3-4 shifts, put a couple shifts together, create a couple of chances, not give Hobart the momentum back? I mean, you score a goal, typically all the momentum's going your way. Well, the Beacons got the power play, stemmed it a little bit, but with Hobart having so many veteran players, they're not intimidated on the road. And with no home crowd here, it does make it a little bit more difficult. You've got to generate your own energy for this Beacon side.
Well, this is the energy creating line, the 4th, for head coach Belisle and the Beacons. Carabelli, Banks, and Adkins in there to create chaos, and potentially create some opportunities, be physical. Hobart trying to dart through the zone. You can usually tell when Matthew Iasenza has the puck because he is darting through and trying to take on all comers. He heads to the bench. This one tapped out of the zone, brought down and controlled. Banks, centering pass. Player comes right off the bench and scores!
What a look from Chris Peters. That took a tip either off a player or off the shoulder of Liam Lascelles, who just had his back to us, but he clearly was upset at himself as he was mouthing something to the boards behind him. Great play by Peters, who had to make sure, first off, that it was not too many players and had to stay onside as he jumped off the bench. And then a quick release. Peters scored 3 times last weekend, including a brilliant release from a similar spot against Babson in the third period to win. Big-time goal from Chris Peters as he adds to his total.
8:08 the time of the goal. It comes from a first liner, but the play created by the fourth line, Jacob Banks getting into the zone offside, and Banks with the pass cross ice finds Peters, who has a brilliant slapper from the right point, beats the Hobart goaltender Lascelles, and we're tied at 1.
And now you're right back where you want to be if you're UMass Boston. You've given up a goal, you've reacted, you've created a power play, you get the goal back. This is a really good sign if you're UMass Boston after what we've seen out of Hobart in the past.
Beacons using that depth to perfection that time, getting the fourth line to create the goal. And it's Chris Peters who gets goal number 9 to go along with his 20 assists. And he extends it, it's 2-1. Same spot, same results. Nolan Barrett.
They're going to give this to Dakota Concannon, who immediately reacted. It's going to be Concannon must have gotten a tip. We'll take a look at the replay of all these goals when we get a chance, but need to see this one. Concannon, who has scored 1 collegiate goal in 20 games, picks up his second. He was elated when that one went in, and what a rip from Nolan Barrett. Again, a Beacon player just into the zone. Barrett had to use his speed just to get there, and the Beacons take a 2-1 advantage. 2 goals in what? A minute 30?
Less. Goal 1, 8:08. Goal 2, 8:50. 32 seconds.
Big little save there from Sam Best. I say little because it wasn't that hard of a shot, but if that slipped through, all the momentum goes away on the look from Will Crane.
Dakota Concannon getting the slightest of tips on an absolute rocket from Barrett, who said, Chris Peters, you think you can put some energy behind your shot? Watch this. And the Beacons, inside 32 seconds, have flipped the score on its head, and now the Beacons lead it 2-1.
That one catches the Raptors. We'll get a stoppage. Mason, before you got to UMass Boston, let's take a look at a replay. UMass Boston, a player by the name of Nick Albano, who was the National Rookie of the Year his freshman year. That's the shot from Peters. Does catch a little bit of the shoulder of Lascelles. This is the tip shot. I don't see the tip. We'd have to slow that down, and we will. Not at this moment, but we'll bring it to you at the next whistle. But that was, that's a blast from Barrett. And maybe Lascelles makes the initial stop if it's coming in as Lascelles had the eyes. But then the tip, there's no chance you can anticipate that.
Absolutely not. And the Beacons, for the second time in 3 nights, give up the first goal and bounce back. And now the Beacons looking for their second straight ranked win in this weekend set against Elmira and Hobart. Still tons of hockey to go. We're just about at the midpoint. But the Beacons, having given up the power play goal earlier in the period, bounce back with 2 beauties from their first liners, Peters and Concannon.
What a good look there on that little 2-on-1. Unfortunately, Duncan misses the net. You've got to put that on target to give Matthews the backside a chance to rebound.
Poke check taken away off the Statesman stick. Softly divvied in there by Devin Moran, who heads to the bench. Hobart trying to clear it themselves. They do so. Best has plenty of time to wait for a defenseman to come back and help out. Nearly a high sticking call, but they're going to say nothing doing. Beacons try to attack. Puck is left behind. Retreating to retrieve is Carabelli. It goes off of the crossbar and post. Right off the intersection. Another look. LaSalle is under attack.
LaSalle is fighting the puck a little bit right now. I don't think he saw that initial shot as Banks was right in his eye line, but he really fought that secondary look.
This one goes into traffic and is blocked on its way through. The Beacons have woken up. That's going to be an offside, and we will come back out of the zone.
Yeah, Liam LaSalle is under a barrage, and I don't think the second goal in any way was his fault, as we'll bring you a replay of that goal at the next whistle. Slowed down. That first goal, I think he could have done better on. It caught a little bit of the shoulder. It was hit hard, but he could see the player coming in. The Beacons are doing a good job of taking away his eyes, and when you give up 2 goals in quick succession, I think it's natural to get in your own head a little bit, and I've loved the Beacons' response, continuing to pile on these shots. UMass Boston led 9-7 in shots in the first period. I think they probably have 7 or 8 shots just in the last 3 to 4 minutes alone when they scored the 2 goals and followed it up.
Well, Seth, you and I talked about it. Their goals were going to happen in this game. We weren't sure how many, but we knew that nothing was definitely not going to be the extended scoreline. 3 goals inside the opening 9 of period number 2.
Well, I think it'll be interesting to see. We still have so much time left in the second period. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but how the Beacons potentially play a third period if the lead is just 1. Against Elmira, it was all focused on the defense, and the Beacons played an excellent defensive third period. I don't know if they have as much faith that they can do that against Hobart. I think Hobart just has a few too many weapons where I just want to sit on a 1-goal lead.
Peters brings it in, onside, shot. Contact between the 2 number 23s, getting in on the play and breaking it up that time was Jackson Alexiev. Cross ice, but before it could get there, gloved by LaSalle.
We've got a power play coming up for the Beacons, but first let's take a look and see if we can see any kind of deflection. I'm not saying Dakota Concannon didn't do it. I'm just saying my eyes are too slow. But let's take a look at that second goal one last time. As you can see, Barrett comes in, tees this up.
Concannon's moving across the circle. I don't see it.
If he does get a piece of it, it's so hard because it's right below the crossbar. So it's teetering at that line of potential of a potential high stick, and it also means that he's taking away LaSalle's eyes a bit as it comes in. So that's an impossible one. As the Beacons on the power play, let's go one more time, and if we have the down low angle, maybe that can help. Again, just trying to show you. The Beacons have the power play, and we'll bring that to you at the next whistle.
Benamarito, the player that was sent to the penalty box for the Hobart Statesmen. Can the Beacons continue their offensive blitz and make this a 3-1 scoreline with the extra man? They didn't get much going on their first power play earlier in the period. Is there more on their second?
Yeah, too many players on the ice. Uncharacteristic mistake from a Mark Taylor side.
So Benamarito serves the penalty for too many men. Fascinating that the Beacons score their second goal because of expert substitution play, with Chris Peters coming off the bench onside, making sure that there aren't too many men on the ice when he touches the slapping puck and sends it into the back of the net, or the first goal anyway. And then a too many men on the ice penalty for Hobart just a few minutes later could potentially give the Beacons an opportunity to make it a 3-1 game.
Well, it's not going to be a very long opportunity as we're going to see a 4-on-4 upcoming. Who's the guilty party for UMass Boston? And it looks like Ty Matthews is going to go to the box. So we've got minute and 4 of 4-on-4, and then we'll go to 5-on-5. Let's take one last look down low at that goal from Concannon. We might never fully be able to see it. I don't know if this is the angle. You see him lift the stick. He certainly tried to get a piece of it.
Now, what is interesting is that the goaltender is clearly going to ground. Oh, I have no idea. He does call it immediately, but, you know, so does the player that shot the puck, Barrett. So either way, it goes to a Beacon, and that's what matters. It's 2-1. We have another 50 seconds of 4-on-4 hockey. as that one's left behind. The pass attempt that never came to be from Barrett. And this is going to come out of the zone.
Yeah, at least offside. And the Beacons are saying, hey, that should be an intentional offside, and it will be.
It's the second time we've seen that called in this game. It's one of those calls you don't see very often, an intentional offside, and we've seen it twice committed by the Statesmen through the opening 35 minutes.
This is the benefit of no crowds. You can't claim that you couldn't hear anything in the rink. There's not enough noise. There's not people shouting and screaming. I mean, if someone's screaming, you better listen. And we've seen it not only in hockey, even the basketball coaches taking advantage, calling out plays and little things that typically the players wouldn't be able to hear.
Best had that come right to him, palmed it away to his right where Chris Peters brings it into the zone. Ethan Nitkin in there as well. We have 4-on-4 for another 12 seconds, and then Hobart will have just under a minute of 5-on-4 themselves. This one deflected up high, escapes the zone to center ice.
That was a brilliant move by Barrett. That was intentional to just float it down the length of the ice, knowing there were two defensemen back. Really smart play by Barrett as Hobart has had 15 seconds of the power play, and they're just now getting it out of their own zone.
Played on the carom in deep. Captain Helt tries to clear. No luck that time. Played on the reverse. Hobart trying to get it to the right point. They eventually do so. Coffey mentioned how good he is on the power play. Here he comes and he scores! No, it's a deflection either way. Is it Coffey? They're all surrounding him. And he's going to the one that leads the line. It's Coffey who equalizes it too.
Yeah, that might have caught a Beacon.
It caught somebody.
Just the way Hobart is reacting. I mean, I thought Zach Tyson might have gotten a tip, but really unfortunate for UMass Boston. You have a goal lead. You've scored 2 in a row. You've got the power play. Things are going all your way. And then a penalty from Matthews. I couldn't see it, but you never want to commit a penalty on the power play. And just like that, 2-2 hockey game. And the question is, who can gain the momentum over these last 5 minutes?
Sorry, Seth.
The Beacons have certainly been the stronger team, I'd say, for the last 10. But these last 5 minutes could go a long way in determining who has a lead and who's feeling confident going into period number 3.
That shot sprayed just wide from Bark Metabarito, who had started serving that too many men on the ice penalty before Matthews committed the one back right after it to bring us to 4-on-4. Coffey, 6-foot senior out of Toronto, played his junior hockey with the Rochester Monarchs, and he adds goal number 11 of his collegiate career, 6 this season for Coffey.
And if I'm right, that's now 2 power play goals and 5 chances for Hobart?
Yes.
Again, I mean, it's first off, you want to reduce the power plays you're giving up, but also it's just the Beacons, for whatever reason, because they're a very good penalty kill, tops in the NEHC, have consistently struggled with Hobart's power play.
And you might as well say it's 2 for 4.5 because they really only got it for a minute, if that.
Well, I mean, they've had, I think, 2 power plays that have been slightly abbreviated. Yeah, I mean, it's something if the Beacons play Hobart again this season, they're really going to have to focus on special teams because 5-on-5, UMass Boston has been the better team today, and hopefully they'll get some more power play chances. The Beacons have only had, I think, 2 looks now, and really it's 1.5. But it hasn't been good enough from the Beacons' penalty kill against Hobart, not in this game, but in each of the last 3.
We have 4:22 to play. After a scoreless first, we've had 4 in the second period. This game has been as entertaining, if not more so, than originally advertised. Cross-ice pass, onside, nice move initially, and it just escapes Corey Clifton. And Hobart tries to counter. Can't start the odd man rush. It comes back. The Beacons are looking for the pass. Clifton waits, delivers. Oh no! How did that not go in from Barrett?
Great 2-on-1 look. Clifton leaves it for Barrett, and I'm not quite sure. I mean, he tries to take that so quickly, maybe afraid of a possible stick lift. Wide open net, and unfortunately this game's not 3-2 in favor of UMass Boston because that was a really good 2-on-1 look.
point blank range. Didn't even necessarily need the shot, just let it carry him off the stick because the goaltender was beat as Clifton had him bite. And Dolan Barrett, who thought he had a goal that Concannon claimed for himself, nearly had one anyway, but cannot get it to go down. And we'll see if Hobart can capitalize on that missed opportunity. You don't get many against a top 5, top 6 team in the country. That's a missed opportunity for UMass Boston late in this second period. Hobart plays it on the Karam. Shot from distance. Best make the initial save. Then he got taken out by a Hobart player. He's still on the ground, and it goes back to the right side short corner behind the net.
Yeah, that was chaos in the Beacons' crease, and really good job by the defenseman keeping that puck away, because anything lifted there would have gone in over Best, and it would have been up to the referees to decide whether or not that was goaltender interference.
Beacons respond to that play by icing the puck. Take a look at Mark Taylor, the head coach of this Hobart team. 21 years in charge, 10 NCAA tournaments, 3 Frozen Fours. And they have really not missed a beat since joining the New England Hockey Conference.
No, and it's so impressive because they were the class of the ECAC West, and you wonder, okay, Norwich is really good, Babson's really good, UMass Boston is ascending. How will they do in this conference? Well, again, I'm not going to say they're the creme de la crop, but they're certainly up there in that top 2 or 3, where every year they've been battling for an NAHC regular season and tournament crown.
Beacons have a couple of players forward, tumbling to the floor, Andy Walker, as we tick to the final 2 minutes and 30 or so seconds in this second period. Beacons with goals from Concannon and Peters. Hobart, 2 of their own from Coffey and their captain P.A. Martineau. Beacons get it out of the scrum. Players lost his stick, so there's a defenseman without a stick for Hobart. Can the Beacons counter? Defenseman does get that stick behind the net, then get right back out in front. Swing and a miss that time from Jeffrey Skinner, and it's sent out of the zone on the Karam. Is this going to be an icing? No, it doesn't get down there far enough. The Beacons just try and counter quickly. Skinner battling up with 3 Statesmen along the boards, 1 Beacon there in support. Sent back, but easily cut out by Chase Bell, who had the assist on Coffey's power play goal for the second. Chopped down. Is this an icing? No.
Very, very close. The Beacons were claiming it was. The linesman very confident it was, and that was right at the red line.
90 seconds to play in the second. Shot through. Did that carry him off the post? It did. Best now being put under some pressure, just as LaSalle was earlier in the second.
Yeah, I think Best had the post covered pretty cleanly. It was the outside of the post, but certainly rung a little bit of the bar.
Trying to go on the reverse. That one blocked out in front. Skating through traffic and making the play was Austin Maurer, the Spring City, PA native. And this one will be an icing on UMass Boston with 58.7 to go.
Yeah, the Beacons just need to settle down right now, get through this final minute. As you see Peter Belisle there, I'm sure he's going to have some adjustments, some things he wants to talk to his team. But right now, win this draw, and it's going to be Gino Carabelli. Won a couple big ones the other day against Brendan Howell, both fourth-line centers.
Gino matched up at center ice with Brendan Howell. The 2 fourth lines going at it with one another. Hobart wins the faceoff, but then carelessly sends it out of the zone.
Yeah, Shane Shell there with a poor pass, giving the Beacons a bit of a break in their own zone.
Chipped up, brought under control by Banks. Banks tried to take it on himself and tried to near post the goaltender, who had things covered with 38 to go. Comes out of the zone. Backhand pass forward, does not find anybody. Helt played forward, brought under control, and then chipped in there deep by Gino. Carabelli getting some support this time from Jacob Banks, his line mate. 20 seconds to go in period number 2. Is there one last look for the men in white and blue? Played on the Karam. Helt moves it to his right from the same spot where they've scored twice, and it is eventually held by the goaltender.
I think that whistle blew early, Mason. I'm just going to say it. The referee from behind, that puck is clearly loose from our angle, and granted we have a much better angle, but that's frustrating because LaSalle is prone face face down, trying to get to that puck. There's 2 Beacons there swatting at it. Yes, player safety is a potential issue, but that puck, if you could just lift it, it's a 3-2 hockey game.
Curious, if there wasn't 8.5 seconds in this period, if that doesn't let it get let go a little bit longer, but you know all the extracurriculars happen late. Is there one last look at it? It's blocked, and that will do it. One last opportunity for Corey Clifton, who had that beautiful move to put in Barrett behind, who couldn't finish. And we end the second period with the exact same score line, if not score line, the same differential as we did the first. 4 goals, 2 apiece. It's 2-2 after 2.
Yeah, a lot to digest from that period. Elmira, or rather Hobart, their travel partner, gets the first goal. They're feeling good. The Beacons get a power play, unable to score and unable to create much, and you thought, okay, maybe Hobart's going to have the advantage. UMass Boston scores on kind of a weird one. Peters jumps off the bench, scores on a shot that catches the shoulder of Liam Lassell. Then the Beacons score that goal that we're still not sure how Dakota Concannon or where Dakota Concannon made contact on the Nolan Barrett shot. I don't think that UMass Boston should feel extremely upset that this is a 2-2 game, but of the two, I felt like the Beacons were the better team in the second period, and that penalty on the power play to Ty Matthews is really frustrating. You take away a chance to potentially make it 3-1, carry the momentum. Everything was going UMass Boston's way after scoring that second goal, and now the Beacons have an uphill battle because remember, Hobart already has a lead in the conference. This is huge right now. If UMass Boston ties today, it's a win for Hobart because they keep their lead over UMass Boston. The Beacons really need the 3 points or 2 points in an overtime win to give themselves a chance if they're going to potentially win the regular season title and have the chance to host all 3 weekends if they can win weekend 1 and 2 of the NEHC tournament.
Beacons with 2 highlight reel slappers from the right side, but undone by 2 power play goals for the men in orange. It's 2-2 after 2. More highlights on the way. This time a tight 6-point victory for your Beacon men's basketball team, taking on the Panthers of Plymouth State on Friday. Let's take a look at those highlights.
Baby girl, that's a superstar with your name. I ain't gon' lie, I told a lot of lies and played a lot of games.
Second intermission right here at Edward T. Barry Ice Rink between UMass Boston and Hobart College. Spent the last 4 minutes going just over the footage of that goal that was claimed by Kincannon over and over and over, just trying to see any kind of a tip off of his stick. Right now, we still have it with Barrett. Nothing that we see definitively gives it to Kincannon other than Kincannon's reaction himself and leading the line. So as we look at the scoring summary, it was Martineau with the early power play goal, then the 2 goals inside 35 seconds. Peters hopping off the bench onside, keeps the number of men on the ice at 5, and Cannon's one home off the shoulder of the goaltender LaSalle. Barrett with a rifle of his own that Kincannon claimed, but Barrett has it at least right now at 8:50. And then Coffey, after the Matthews penalty, brought us to 4-on-4 briefly, but then in the 5-on-4 portion for the Statesmen, Coffey from the point took a deflection on its way through off of a player on UMass Boston, but Coffey gets the goal at 14:45. And just like that, Seth, we have an equally entertaining second period, but the goals finally came, and boy, did they come.
Yeah, and they came in quick succession. For UMass Boston, those 2 goals, it just felt like all the momentum was on UMass Boston's side. Similar situations, and then that Coffey goal, kept talking about the bounces not going Hobart's way in the first period, not necessarily in the second period. Well, that bounce did go their way because it took a deflection. Coffey's claiming the goal, and he probably did score it, but it took a deflection off of someone in front of Best because that one clearly looked like it changed the trajectory, and that's a little bit frustrating. That's a little bit frustrating for UMass Boston because it's a 2-2 game.
It certainly is. The big problem, Seth mentioned at the end of that second period how UMass Boston probably feels a little bit hard done by. They've played the better team. They've played the better game for the most part. You look at the plus minuses, and at the end of the day, the best players for Hobart are the guys that have been on the ice when UMass Boston has scored. McGuillan, their best player, has a -2. Moore, a -2. Buzavera, -1. Like, the best players for Hobart are not the players coming through. It's the 2 power plays, and that Matthews one really undoes a lot of things that UMass Boston had been building through that second period with those 2 goals in 33 seconds. As we take a look at those statistics, this is second period stats. You see the 10-9 Hobart grew into the game a little bit, but when you have the power play opportunities that you were able to generate against Best's goal, not a surprise that they just outshot UMass Boston. 8 saves made by Best in the second period, 7 for LaSalle. The faceoffs have flipped around a little bit in favor of Hobart. But the big stat is the power plays. UMass Boston, no luck in that second period. On the other side for Hobart, 2 power play goals and just a few more opportunities than that, and that has resulted in a 2-2 hockey game. Hobart has to feel a little bit luckier. They finally got the puck luck to bounce their way. They got the calls when they needed them. And UMass Boston, despite 2 incredible goals from the right side, when you give up 2 against a power play that has been your taboo almost over the last couple of games, you got to feel that this next 20 minutes could have a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it just a frustrating one. It looks like that penalty on Matthews that we didn't see was too many players on the ice as well. So it's not on Ty.
No, it's not.
But it is on the coaching staff, and it is on the Beacons making those substitutions, which is, I mean, it still was a huge momentum shift in this game. So Beacons need to do a better job of staying out of the box. They need to do a better job on the kill because Hobart has scored on 2 of their last 3 chances at this point.
Yes.
So that's something to watch. And for UMass Boston, they've got to be the aggressor in this third period. It was the opposite way on Friday against Elmira when they let Elmira come to them and just played really sound defensively. Beacons need 3 points a lot more than Hobart does tonight.
They certainly do. We've brought you a lot of highlights. This may be the most historic highlight reel that we bring you. UMass Boston and Castleton women's basketball from last Monday. Meg Dixon, the senior, makes history. 35 points in a game, the all-time record that was previously held by 4 players. She broke it on Monday night. with those 35. Let's take a look. And as Spartans turn it over, 2-on-2 the other way. Dixon, he pulls from long range, and hits the three ball. That is her 100th three-point attempt of the season. Castleton tries to exit. Green goes through a double team and draws the foul. Einstein got that rebound for three. Rails his way out. Dixon cracks it down and a nice pass inside. A series of picks at Dixon. What a great play design for Arena. Resets doesn't look on the shot. Now goes into the double team where Dixon still burns away. Inside. Green goes inside. That's a great move. Picked up on the roll. Farina, well off the mark. Bichargine gets blocked from behind. Dixon picks it. Ball falling free. Basketball. Gotta give him more credit than that. It's the Beacon forced the turnover and we go. Bichargine Green, what a pass! Thought about that for a second before thinking better. Sullivan picks Dixon. 12. Beacons coming out on fire. Green. This is his long Gonzalez. Somebody needs that. Moving the moment for the Beacons. Using that distance to raise something. What a great hesitation move and block. Left side. Nice pick from behind. Dixon's going to have an easy way up on the other end. 20 minutes. Farina. Dixon. Spins. Lays it up. And it hit the mid-range bumper. A couple of on the 14. Dixon. Trying to cross over Farina. No such luck. Gives off the buzz. Who lays it in? Sullivan. Wide open. Farina. Picks it. And then Negro starts. Here comes Negro again. How about that split? And got it as low as 10 after that 9-1 in the first half. Pass from Dixon. Dixon. Switching on the first pass. There's a pass to Sonny Green. To Jashari Green for 6. Dixon gets past one defender. Gets plays it. Now it's step. Balloon inside. Block from behind for Dixon. Then kicks to Charlie Green. Takes it off the bounce. Misses it up. Goes up for a second look. Dixon for three. Yeah! Down by Negro. Second look at Dixon. Off the dribble. Gets inside. What a pass! Come on, inside. There it is! Dribble drop. Dixon. Brooklyn. Gonzalez. Didn't see her as much in the second half, but had a great first half. Just about 3 minutes or so to go before we resume action for the third period of play. Everything to play for in the third period of a 2-2 hockey game. We take a look around Beaconville. We've already seen highlights from men's basketball's win over Plymouth State on Friday. Women's hockey against Elmira, fallen by a tough one against the Soaring Eagles, although the men were able to take care of business against Elmira in their matchup. Women's hockey bouncing back yesterday, taking on William Smith, the sister college of this Hobart Statesman team. 2-1 the final yesterday out in the Geneva area. Track and field at Wesleyan canceled, and women's basketball in a non-conference game against Coast Guard. Both those tournaments / games canceled due to Winter Storm Keenan. We take a look at the NEHC scoreboard. Babson taking care of Skidmore yesterday, 5-1. Skidmore would answer with a 7-3 victory against Southern Maine, and they are through 2 periods between Norwich and New England College. It's still close, but it's the number 13 ranked team in the country, the Cadets, leading it 2-1 after 40 minutes. Unlike the first period, we have a lot more highlights, including 4 goals to show you from the second. We bring those to you now, and Seth and I will break things down for you. There is a lot to parse through. We mentioned how hard it was to see if Concannon got a tip, and the last goal for Hobart as well took some deflections on its way through. Plenty of action in this second period of play.
Yeah, you see that great deflection on the first goal from P.A. Martineau. Really nice job on the power play. Not trying to do too much. We saw Barrett later in the period really try hard to shoot. All take sometimes is a nice little tip. This is the first goal. Catches a bit of the shoulder. You can see Lascelles' body language really, really frustrated, as that's the second look, just rising right over. And then the Beacon's second goal is going to come really quickly afterwards. And it's just an absolute bullet from Nolan Barrett. You see Concannon's reaction. That's why we thought that he got a piece. He may have. It's just too fast for the eye to see from our camera angles. But then the Beacons continue to have the advantage. And finally, this goal, it's like a weird deflection. I'm not sure if that's off the inside of the post, and that's what it might have been, is we're not going to get a second look. And then this is that late chance. Look how close that was. Puck goes just wide of the near post on what was a wide open net.
Lascelles was beat. And sometimes on a play like that, you see the player at the far post, they look up too quickly and they basically swing and a miss, and it goes past the near post. But no, he got all of it. The problem was he didn't get the aim and directs it past the far post through the blue paint. And somehow Hobart escapes that one, and they take a 2-2 game into the third period. 2 power play goals for the Hobart Statesmen, 2 even strength goals, similar in their build-up. Perfect slappers from the right side of the ice. So the long change results in 2 too many men on the ice penalties as well. 1 on each side, and 4 combined goals between the two sides. We are about set to go for period number 3. You're watching the Beacon Broadcast Network, part of the Little East Conference Network, on a Sunday late afternoon, now into the early evening. Mason Stauff alongside Seth Orensky for an absolute thrilling battle between the two top teams in this fantastic NEHC conference. Hobart in the orange, tries to get it past Best at the near post, makes its way all the way out. Plenty of room to shoot this one, and they shoot high.
That one took a deflection as well off the stick of Maurer.
All the time in the world for Maurer to shoot from the right side. The Beacons got a little bit out of sorts right off the get-go, as they had 5 players all within 5 feet of Sam Best, and Maurer was just able to let rip through traffic. Beacons in their home whites with the blue pants and blue numbers, attacking Lascelles' goal, and Lascelles turns it over and was able to get back and make the pad save as it came right into the crease. Shot from distance, it's deflected wide. Just getting a touch on it was Jake Gresh, the defenseman.
I think Jeffrey Skinner actually tipped that one wide and lost his glove behind the net. We're going to get an icing call. That was a really dangerous Lascelles. If you're going to be a goalie coming out of your crease, in my opinion, you got to know you're going to win the battle and know that you're going to easily be able to get rid of the puck. That time, good forecheck pressure from the Beacons, and it nearly led not only to 1 good chance, but 2.
Matt Meisenbacher would have pitched himself off of our perch if he saw a goal like that. Meisey, of course. Beacon goaltenders during the past decade, and would not have liked to see that. Meisey unable to be on the call today after the postponement from yesterday due to the blizzard. 90 seconds gone, second period. This next goal going to be so key. Taking a spill as he tried to hit the shot and went down hard was Ty Matthews. He was serving the penalty for too many men on the ice when the Beacons gave up the equalizing goal. Chipped in there deep by Jared Patterson. Makes its way back out to the far side. Now it's on the stick of Zach Tyson, the alternate captain. Tyson reverses course. Players going down all over the place. How about this possession? Getting out of traffic by Maguian. Now Maguian battling up against his opposite, number 25. Maguian. It's been a long shift again for UMass Boston, and finally they're able to break things and make some changes. How about that hit? As getting absolutely leveled that time was Ethan Nitkin. He's gone down hard twice, that time a lot more fairly than the first time as he got knocked down off to our left, and the Beacons wanted a penalty but didn't get it.
Yeah, it looked fairly clean to me from Jared Patterson. There was some contact up near the head, but it wasn't with an elbow or a shoulder. It was more just a little bit of the body.
Fastest player on the ice is back out there, Matthew Iasenza, and immediately goes right at two defenders. It somehow did not make its way on frame. It went through a defender's legs and beat Best to the far post, but luckily just inches wide.
That might have actually caught a little bit of the inside of the leg of that defenseman to help out UMass Boston.
There's a stick down behind the play, behind Hobart's net. That player is off the ice right now, so we just have a lone stick without an owner at the moment. But will that come into play if the Beacons can get an attack down the other way? Trying to clear the zone, they do so, but only as far as center ice, where it's chipped right back into play by Jake Gresh. Retrieved down the far side. It's Krapinski who goes down hard.
Krapinski just blew up two Hobart players by throwing one into another.
Yep. And now that's through traffic. It doesn't go in. Karam's off the post. I'm not sure if Best got a save on it first, but either way, Beacons escape again.
I think Ryan Bogan, the defenseman behind Best, might have gotten a piece as well as he was battling with the Hobart player. This has been the worst start to a period for UMass Boston thus far. Hobart's creating the chances. The Beacons are a bit on their heels. They need to match the intensity of the Statesmen.
Statesmen have scored both of their goals while playing 5-on-4, but this is by far the best that Hobart has looked in 5-on-5. Because through 40 minutes, is that another ice puck? It is. And the Beacons, that's a little bit of a shot to the foot there as they couldn't get a shot to it. And they have to retreat to the other end of the ice without being able to make a change.
This is typically the time on day 2 of a weekend where you're worried about fatigue. It can't be a factor. You had all Saturday off to rest, to recuperate. Right now, it's more about, I think, the mental, if not the physical, because UMass Boston should easily have enough left in the tank. But right now, Hobart's outskating them. They're winning some of those 50-50 loose puck battles, and the Beacons just unable to generate what we saw so much of in the first 2 periods.
This is a Beacon team that over the last 5 games, Hobart has had their number, 4-0-1, including some pretty lopsided individual periods, if not necessarily lopsided games. It's been individual periods where they have been thoroughly outplayed by Hobart. Cannot let that happen in this third. Hobart wins. They really wrest control of their destiny atop the NEHC poll. Hobart takes it. Best missed it. Actually, he got a touch to it, but it went right to a player in orange and got a little bit lucky as it was directed just wide on the second shot attempt.
And it all started from another turnover the Beacons' end. The Beacons, yes, there have been a couple bounces that have gone Hobart's way. We knew that was going to happen, but it's also the Beacons are just being a little bit sloppy in their own end, and it's costing them at this point, just in terms of how much harder they're having to work to get it out of their own zone.
Hobart plays it off the double Karam. Beacons just send it right back in there, but it's held in at the right circle. Cross-ice pass. Hobart feeling confident through 6 minutes in period number 3, but they don't have the goal. Beacons hanging on. A couple of opportunities missing by mere inches. Is this an opportunity? Is it just wide by about 3 or 4 feet that time? Had the look, but couldn't get the angle, and shot sprays wide that time.
Yeah, good job by Matthew Ruth to get a tip on that look from Ty Matthews, who's certainly capable of scoring from that distance. As Alex Duncan takes a hard, I mean, it wasn't a shot, but
no.
a dump block there and right into the chest. Did not look happy.
Those are rock-hard pieces of rubber. And that comes at you from point blank. Doesn't matter how much padding you have, that does not feel comfortable as Duncan skates to the bench. Get a nice pack of ice after the game. Hobart Doesn't have the numbers. The shot comes in. Easy glove from Best, though, from right down center by Matthew Iasenza.
Mason, it's weird because going into this third period, we thought the Beacons would be the aggressors. They're the team that needs the 3 points more, but it's been Hobart who's come out more aggressive, who's come out with more energy. It feels like Mark Taylor told his team, hey, we don't need these 3 points, but let's go out and get them and really open up a nice lead. They'd have a 4-point advantage on Babson and UMass Boston if they come away with 3 points today. And it just feels like the Beacons need to up their game a little bit. They're being outskated.
Oh, we went over, as that one's held by LaSalle, we went over the schedules, and again, you think of it a different way. It almost feels like UMass Boston is thinking, oh, we have Johnson Wales twice. We've got Castleton. Skidmore can be up or down. So the next 4 games, we feel comfortable. Hobart knows they have a Skidmore team that can be up or down. We don't know if we're going to get up or down, but we assume that we'll get up. And then you have a game against Norwich. Hobart knows that these 3 points are big 3 points, and you always want to take it to somebody on their home ice. You had the extra day. You'd love to be home right now out in Geneva. No, you had the extra day in the hotel. They came out hungry in this third period, and the Beacons are still trying to find some answers.
The referees just made a call that I would call bizarre, if not extremely poor. They called a high-sticking call on Jake Gresh in front of his own goal. No Beacons in the vicinity. Big-time offensive zone draw for UMass Boston that, quite honestly, they didn't earn.
Well, it doesn't matter how you get it, but they don't win the draw. As UMass Boston was pretty good on the faceoffs in the first, but things flipped around in the second and in the third. Hobart has really asserted their dominance in every facet, including in the faceoff circles. This one deflects up high. 4 players battling, while 5 and 6 wait to enter the fray. Shot comes in blocked. Took a heavy deflection that time. Off it looks like the leg that time of Alex Duncan.
Yeah, it was a good find for Will Crane in the circle, but a Beacon immediately getting in front of that one, taking a lot of the juice of that shot away. Easy save for Sam Best. Almost 8 minutes gone by. Beacons really haven't been able to generate all that much. Who's going to provide a spark? This second line has been their best line since being put together. Can they create that first shift where you don't need a goal, but can you get some zone time? Can you generate a chance or two, get an offensive zone draw, and start something? Because the Beacons haven't had that shift thus far in this third period.
Nitkin, Skinner, Walker, and then Keegan and Rowland back there defensively in front of Sam Best on this shift for Coach Belisle. Hobart player goes down. Beacons have 4 behind the puck. Keegan sends it out there. Skinner, not put under too much pressure. Cross ice pass this time finds Nitkin, who takes another heavy hit, but gets away with it. Nitkin gets in the zone, flings it across just in front of the crease. Playing it off the carom is Skinner. Knocked out, left side. Just able to keep it alive was Rowland, but now he has to head to the bench for a change, and Hobart gets the puck back. Heavy check into the boards by Nitkin. That'll be his last act of this shift. It's deflected high. Trying to baseball swat it down ice, but no luck that time was Skinner. This one deflected, and Best makes the stop. His rebound and control is usually very good. It's been a little bit left to be desired in this game, but he makes the stop, and that's what's most important with 11 minutes to go. Trying to flake it through. It was a fantastic look. Beacons have had 2 of them. Devin Moran playing Krapinski through. And for the second time, a beautiful play by the attacker to find a defenseman who can't finish from close range.
Yeah, on both sides of the ice, you had a defenseman with a really good shot. Jared Patterson, call his name enough times today,
right?
Forced that shoulder save from Best that he fought off. It's a great look, and Krupinski lifts the backhand just wide. It's what you want. You want the lift to be able to beat the goalie who's likely going to go low, and unfortunately just a little bit high for the freshman of Dallas, who had a really nice goal here a couple weekends ago in the loss to Norwich.
Clifton to Barrett, couldn't find the back of the net. And then this time, it was a beautiful pass to Krapinski. And again, The Beacons just cannot find the back of the net. You don't get too many great opportunities against this Hobart team that is stingy defensively, if not as strong as they are offensively. But the Beacons have left a couple of opportunities right at the doorstep. Could that be the difference in who gets 3 points and who does not?
Look at the last two Beacons, really, really good chances. It was Barrett and Krupinski putting it just wide, a pair of defensemen.
The Beacons' 2 goals coming from Peters, and the one that was claimed by Kincannon but given to Barrett. Barrett certainly looked like he was the one that got the goal. Kincannon just peeled away from it. Those were the Beacons' 2 goals. 2 power play goals for Hobart. The captain, P.A. Martineau, first, and the second coming from the point, Blake Coffey, the defenseman's getting the second.
Mason, this has been noticeably better, though, for UMass Boston over the last 3 shifts. We saw a good shift from the second line, a better shift from the third line with Moran setting up Krupinski. Fourth line has created some zone time. They're not dominating, but it seems like the ice is tilted a little bit, where at least it's a 50-50 game, as this should be an icing.
There
and
it
now
is.
I'd have to expect it'll be the top line coming out for the Beacons. Kincannon, Peters, and Clifton, they've looked good today. They've certainly had a bigger impact. Can you find a defenseman? And a little bit surprised Nolan Barrett's not out there with that big shot, but Pat Keegan has a huge shot of his own, and he's out on the ice. He'll be at the near point with Peters taking his face-off against Luke Aquero.
Peters loses out to Aquero. Hobart takes it out of the zone. The one thing we have not seen, along with a goal in this third period, has been a penalty. But we know how strong Hobart can be if they can get on the power play. The Beacons have gotten on the power play a couple of times in this game, but have not scored on either of those chances. Cross ice pass just out in front of Corey Clifton. Clifton gets dragged down, and here's the penalty.
Oh, that is a tough break there on Jake Gresh. The puck took a weird carom off the boards, allowing Clifton to get back into the play, and Gresh, I don't think it was egregious, but he slowed him down just enough to make sure he couldn't get to the puck. Believe it's going to be an interference, and now the Beacons 0 for 2 on the power play today. They get their third chance. Hobart 2 for 4. Power play goal right now would be a huge lift for UMass Boston, a chance at least to get 2 sustained minutes maybe in the zone and really creating some chances against LaSalle.
They get Gresh for holding. Gresh out of Avon, Connecticut, but started his collegiate career at the Division I level at Alaska Fairbanks, one of 2 D1 programs out of the northwestern state of the Union. Knocked all the way back down ice.
I'm sure Gresh was wondering why there was any kind of hullabaloo about yesterday's storm.
Right? I would say Alaska Fairbanks, you would have played a game in that weather. But if you are a Beacon fan, you cannot say you have not had an entertaining weekend. From the Elmira game, men's basketball against Plymouth State, the women splitting against the number 3 ranked team along with William Smith as this one's tapped in. And oh my goodness, what happened there?
Well, Nicken thought the puck was loose, and it clearly was a little bit loose.
It was a little bit loose.
Nicken was able to poke it away from LaSalle. And the Beacon's fortunate, because if that got all the way through, it would have been an icing, as Nicken is going to skate off, but not to the penalty box. They could have, if they had really thought it was egregious, potentially put him in. Second unit out there for the Beacons. This group scored the game winner on Friday with Devin Moran scoring a goal. Can they create a chance, because the top unit got nothing done the first 40 seconds?
How about that sacrificial play? Stick is broken. Defenseman putting everything on the line and making an incredible play was the extra skater, Matthew Woof.
Yeah, a good look from Pat Keegan. He broke the stick of the Hobart player, but it didn't have enough to get all the way through.
Woof out of Westminster, Colorado. The stick has been picked up. Beacons still have 45 seconds with an extra man. Can they create something? They've surrendered 2 goals on a power play. Can they score one on theirs? It's spilled out in front and nobody's home. Just in the center of the crease. Puck wasn't even moving. And everybody tried to react at once. Hobart reacted first.
At least 3 bodies in front of Liam LaSalle. Had no idea where it was. Just sat there in the crease enticingly. And a good job by one of the Hobart defensemen to get over there and knock the puck away, because that could have been an easy tap-in.
So fascinating. This game played on ice, and somehow through all those bodies, the puck not even moving an inch as it just sits in the blue paint waiting for somebody to poke home. Hobart reacts first, and they kill off the penalty. We're back to 5-on-5. Beacons nearly turn the puck over. Hobart trying to get it back. They do so. The Beacons are able to get it out of the zone first. 6:31 to play in regulation. How about that pass? Right into a defender on the shot attempts.
Krupinski getting really, really low there on the shot block. The Beacons commit the icing just out of the reach of Carabelli. I mean, Michael Krupinski is well over 6 feet, and he was out with his shoulder tucked and his arm there ready to get in front of that shot. Right now, Alex Duncan heads off the bench and will be attended to by Ed Perkins. Looks like it's relatively minor.
Had the smallest player on the ice, Mark Benamarito at 5'6", hitting it into Krupinski at well over 6 foot as Best holds on to that one. Dart from Blake Coffey, exact spot on the ice where UMass Boston scored twice in the second period, but Best saw that one the whole way and snags it with the left-handed glove.
Yeah, it feels like it's going to be, you're going to have to do more to score on either of these goals. You're going to have some kind of traffic in front. I know LaSalle wanted that goal by Peters back, but he's played very well since giving up those 2 goals in less than a minute.
As we approach 6 minutes to play in regulation, we had no goals in the first, 4 in the second, none in the third. The long change, a couple of penalties, a couple of deflections, and a lot of traffic on its way led to those 4 goals in period number 2, but the third period, a little bit of a return to that first period form. Not quite the same level as Hobart having come out hot in the third period. Beacons have responded nicely over about the last 8 to 10 minutes. They have made this an even hockey game again.
Rare clean win for the Beacons in the offensive zone. Unfortunately, it was not at anybody as Evan Helt trips up a Hobart player. No call coming.
Try to do the wraparound play. Helt sacrificing his body and then trying to play on the wraparound was Luca Cuero, but was unable to beat Best past his right leg. Best so nimble in his crease, able to get from one side of the goal to the other quickly. This is Coffey right into traffic again. Blocked that time on its way through by Barrett.
4-on-2.
Oh no, that's an offside.
Nolan Barrett the near side, and Evan Rahoviak over at the bench. The extra skater just has his hands on his helmet. Oh, what a chance. Interesting, 5:27 to go. If you go to overtime, both teams get at least a point. The winner gets 2. So the Beacons at most would be tied with Hobart. How aggressive does Peter Belisle play this, knowing that you still have 4 games left? Even a point today takes you past your rival Babson into sole possession of second place. A lot of different things, and with 4 games left, you don't necessarily have to be ultra aggressive. Not saying the Beacons won't be, though.
We will see. This game could shift. Beacons could play it safe, but if Hobart commits a penalty, expect Peter Belisle to go in. It's going to be the other way. They stay with an extra skater darting around trying to deflect it. There's the touch. And it's going to be 5-on-4 for Hobart. And we've already seen there's definitely no way that this Hobart team and head coach Mark Taylor are just going to sit back and welcome a point. They want to go for 3, and they will have an opportunity to snag one late with a power play in just 5:01 to go in regulation.
Yeah, it's Dakota Kincannon who heads to the box. 5:01 to go, ton of time left in this hockey game. All starts, can the Beacons, when they get a chance to clear the zone, effectively do so? They haven't done a great job of that in the third period, especially early.
Beacons actually got their stick on the puck, but the faceoff is ultimately won, or at least kept in the zone, by the Statesman. Beacons do not want to get too close to Best where they create their own worst enemy, which is traffic in front of the net.
It's a good block by Carabelli, but he was still feeling it a little bit, unable to turn around and get a ton behind a clearance.
Held in right point. Back into the slot. Another nice block, and it's going to take a lot to get Alex Duncan off the ice.
I mean, these are 2 of the Beacons' best penalty killers, a pair of first-year players who were ultra physical.
I feel like you watch Alex Duncan take that shot. That is the epitome of, so you want to be a hockey player. That one, I'm not sure if that one tipped off the crossbar, but it caromed all the way around to right point. Held in right corner, short corner, blocked by Best with his right shoulder. Hobart has kept it in for the entire 60 seconds of this power play. Beacons have not cleared once.
I think I actually caught the skate of Gino Carabelli previously. Chance here for Duncan, but he's not going to have the legs.
Beacons have had 1 minute and 10 seconds with these 5 on the ice. They got to clear it, and they do.
Beacons just celebrated like they scored a goal. The entire bench sticks up and then pounding the bench. Killed off the first 90 seconds. Can you finish off the kill here?
3.5 to go in regulation. Another clearance. Hobart retreats. Beacons looking for this critical penalty kill. And then it's the question of what do you do over the last 3 minutes? Best sticks it to his right. Trying to track it down was Nitkin. Hobart with 10 on the clock. Right side. Back to the middle. Moving around the slot. Back to the center. All the way through. Takes a deflection off a defender and goes wide. And the Beacons have 5 men again. And how about that retreating play as Kincannon comes right out of the box and goes into the check.
I mean, fortunate for Hobart because they had no idea Kincannon was coming. If he'd been able to take it right off the stick of the Statesman player, he would have been going 1-0 the other way.
Kincannon delivers another hit, then gets some help as well from Ryan Rowland. Lifted high, past the blue line the other way, but kept in. 2:33 to go. How do these teams play it? Oh, that's a careless play. Did not get the contact. Hobart takes it back, but it escapes the zone off the deflection as Chris Peters, not sure how much he was aware of it, but it went off of his heel and out of the blue line. Cross-ice pass. Hobart gets a nice touch that time by Bogan. 2:09 to play. Beacons, because of the penalty kill, did not have much going for the last 3 minutes. That one's blocked as Corey Clifton tried to direct it on frame.
What a feed from Peters.
Chris Peters having a great day. Has the goal. Can he get one late? This one blocked. But it takes an ugly carom and it goes in behind, and the goaltender is able to figure out where the puck is and cover.
And this is big for the Beacons because now you get the offensive zone faceoff. You could call a timeout. Head coach Peter Belisle was talking to Steven Bucco, forward for the Beacons back in the day. But now you get your line settled because we've seen the Beacons mixing and matching out of the penalty kill. Now you got your second line out there. See if they can actually create something as they're back to 5-on-5 after that big power play for Hobart.
The Skinner-Walker-Nitkin line hasn't scored, but they've been impressive. A puck is, or a stick is somehow pinioned up against the boards and is just standing there waiting for it to be picked up. But it is broken. And so Hobart has to get a stick out there. Opportunity, and it's blasted from just outside the left face-off circle. And Ethan Nitkin had the look, but couldn't get it past the goaltender.
If you had a choice of maybe 2 or 3 players to get a look like that, I'm putting him either first or second with Peters, and then maybe Matthews would be third. The Beacons go with that third unit right there. Good look from the second line. Good forecheck pressure. Can you keep Hobart in the defensive zone and keep creating?
1:26 to go in regulation. A goal now would almost surely be the winner. Nobody scored. Every single goal in this game has come in the second period. Nothing in the first or yet in the third. The Beacons try to keep it alive. The centering pass gets cut off. Kept in behind, left short corner. Heavy check. Beacons trying to center again. A lot of possession behind the net. Oh, the rifle opportunity was there, but contact could not be made. Great look by Devin Moran. He was trying to go for his second equalizer in as many games, or second game winner in as many games, but couldn't get contact.
Really good pass from Duncan behind the net.
Hobart. That was a nice little nifty play, but nobody home. Takes a deflection. The stick getting involved that time of Alex Duncan, who seemed to get a stick or a body on everything. 30 seconds left to play in regulation. It comes out of the zone. Beacons just trying to see this one out and guarantee themselves the point. Offside with 13.1 to go. I don't expect either team will use their timeout here in a neutral zone faceoff. But that may be enough for regulation unless Hobart can win something quick and get something toward Best's goal. Face-off won by UMass Boston with 10. Oh, and they turn it over. Is there one last look? Slapper! Just wide on the left side. One last look with 3. Pokes up high. 2-1, and that will do it. Nervous final moments as a Beacon turnover leads to a Hobart shot that whistles wide. And the teams will retreat to their bench. Points guaranteed on either side now. But after 3 periods of play, we cannot separate things. It's 2-2. But you got to think now it's a very interesting decision on how you play overtime, Seth.
Well, now both teams get at least partially what they deserve, because I think both of these teams played well enough to earn a point. Now it's how aggressive do you get, because at most you're losing a point in 4-on-4 overtime. Also, we're about to see some really exciting hockey because the Beacons have a couple of really, really good skaters with great shots who excel in 4-on-4, and it's the same thing with Hobart. So this is about to be electric. But I think the Beacons need to be a little bit more aggressive than Hobart is. I think you can afford to be aggressive either way because, again, if you're Hobart and you lose this game in overtime, you're tied with UMass Boston. If you're UMass Boston, okay, well, you have to get at worst, you're 2 points back, which is just 1 regular season win. Hobart's got the tougher schedule going forward, but Hobart also should have the game in hand. So right now, it's just about making smart decisions. You cannot turn the puck over, leading to an odd man rush the other way. I mean, that is the big bugaboo here actually, I believe it's 3-on-3, not 4-on-4. So even more so, you cannot give up those 2-on-0, 2-on-1 chances the other way because they're likely going to score. And I like this opening group. You're going to see Barrett, who is the Beacon's best offensive defenseman, out there with Clifton and Peters. I'm sure if this goes along, we'll see combination of Skinner and Nicken, Kropinski, and on the other side, why not? We're going to see Maguian, the leading scorer, with Blake Coffey, and the third member is Zach Tyson. So an older group, but a tremendous group. I mean, both of these teams not only have great forwards, but great puck-moving defensemen as well.
We put 5 minutes on the clock. Sudden death overtime, 3-on-3. Plus the goaltenders. Can either team break this deadlock? If not, both teams take the points, and we call this one a tie. Deflected up into the rear netting behind Best's net. Again, we resit things for you. Goals from Peters and from Barrett. Canceling out goals from P.A. Martineau and Blake Coffey. The 2 Hobart goals were on 5-on-4. Beacon scoring twice from basically the same spot on the ice at even strength. All those goals coming in period number 2. Is there anything in the extra session? Mason Snelf, Seth Orensky taking you to some extra hockey. Here comes Hobart. Gaining the zone. Is there an opportunity in front? Best makes the stop. No, he doesn't. No, he does. They wave it off.
Hobart was celebrating. We'll get to that replay. We might not have it before the next whistle. Hobart was celebrating. Almost impossible to tell if it was in or not. Referee was out in front, seemed to have a decent angle at it, and that's absolutely humongous. Magoyan beat Barrett that time. Got the top scorer versus the Beacon's defenseman. Beacon's going to send out a second unit here of Kropinski, and it's Kincannon who partners with Nicken. Interesting.
Draw is won by the Orange men. Knocked in there behind. Hobart just decides to send it back to LaSalle.
So that's a move. You see that in indoor soccer. I've never seen that in hockey.
In 3-on-3 too. Apparently just didn't like the space despite all of it at his disposal. Hobart trying to build from the back. They're going to get a look here. It's going to go just wide, and I think the net was off of its moorings first.
Yeah, I mean, there were two players in the crease. It was Kincannon going back and forth that time with who else? Iasenza. I don't think that goal would have counted. And now the Beacons look like they're going to change up.
They're going to call a timeout.
They're going to call a timeout. They're going to change up this unit. I mean, right now it seems like Hobart is communicating better of what they want to do. Let's take a look at that chance for Aaron McGoyan where Hobart thought they had won the game. But UMass Boston needs to skate a little bit faster here in the extra session. Also help if they got a little bit more possession. So we'll bring you that clip in just a second. We got plenty of time during this timeout, just a minute and 8 seconds into the overtime.
A lot to talk about for both these coaches. You can see the Beacon coaching staff trying to set things up on how they're going to retreat and try and attack. There's the replay. You can see Best fall back. And then it's the question of where's the puck when he does so.
Yeah, McGoyan and Coffey, I think, are celebrating. The referee, Di Pasquale, is immediately waving it off. I mean, that's as close as it gets. And, of course, it's as far away as it gets from actually being able to give you a great angle at it. Even our down-low camera on the opposite side wouldn't really be able to give you a good look down the goal line.
3:52 to play. Another face-off won by Hobart.
Duncan, Moran, and Barrett, the three for UMass Boston.
So Barrett was only off the ice for a couple of seconds, but now it's turned over. Is there to come the beat? Got flung down ice. I don't know if
it's part of the tape on the stick there that broke off.
So we can play through that. Comes all the way back. Beacons retrieve. Hobart goes for a quick change. Beacons do one of their own. They gain the zone, trying to duck inside. Devin Moran had the winner against Elmira. Tried to deke the defender and get one-on-one with the goaltender. Goaltender doesn't have to get involved because the defender takes care of things. Statesman, get it, turning. Reed Lindsay was on the puck, and he's still on the puck as he retreats again. Hobart feeling more confident building up from the back than they are just developing in the middle. As Best, is there gonna be a foul?
I don't think there's any kind of penalty there. It looked like P.A. Martineau just kind of tripped over his own skates. It was a weird one.
It's a weird one to blow dead because are they coming out of the zone? What is going on? I'm trying to figure out what
I think we're getting a face-off in the near circle. It's interesting. Hobart seems like they're more confident in this overtime format. The Beacons have only played one overtime game this year. That was the tie against Norwich. Elmira and Hobart just played one last Saturday in which Elmira won 4:46 into the overtime at Hobart.
Beacons had an initial look. Player goes down. The initial pass could not be made as Corey Clifton missed it. But he's still in there. Beacons set up the triangle. Tried to pass to Clifton. Comes out toward Peters. Peters circles back. Just as Hobart does. Beacons looking to build from the back. Past the midpoint in overtime. 2:10 to go in the extra session. Both teams guaranteed at least 1 point. But is there more in store from either side? Peters was dispossessed.
Just feels like the impetus is possession matters even more here in overtime with only the three skaters. The Beacons are going to go back. It's surprising. We really haven't seen much of Walker and Nicken. They got on for a matter of seconds.
That's an icing call. That is a silly mistake made by Hobart. No reason to even put yourself in that situation, and now the Beacons going to have an offensive zone face-off in 3-on-3 hockey.
Yeah, Moran will take this one against Martineau. Neither team has a center out there.
Moran loses out. Hobart has really taken over the face-off battle after the first period where the Beacons had the edge.
Feels like Nolan Barrett's played close to 2.5 minutes thus far in the overtime.
Cross-ice passes cut out. Hobart, can they break? Nope, it's when it's get a little bit too far away from them. They are onside, though. And Best, using that catching glove to great effect again, halts things with a minute 22.
Yeah, that was dangerous from UMass Boston. Moran nearly left 1-on-3 there. That's the last thing you want, especially with your defenseman caught out of position. And Beacons are going to try to settle it down. Evan Helt gets his first session as the first shift as the defenseman here, with Peters working with Duncan.
Beacons trying to win that face-off. Hobart player dragged to the ground, and now he's sitting there with the puck pinioned against the boards. It eventually comes out of there. Can Hobart drag it around the net? Beacons trying to protect, takes a deflection, and the Beacons do a good enough job to knock it down ice. 60 to go. It's been much more of a tactical overtime than has been thrilling, but there's still plenty of time when you only have 6 men out there. Hobart turning around, and now we do blow things dead.
I think the net's off its mooring, if anything.
Hobart was complaining for about 3 or 4 seconds before that play was eventually blown dead. So did they put any more time on the clock?
The Beacons are claiming that it was popped off by Hobart and the puck should come out of the zone. 2 referees and the linesman. Kind of looks like from here, I didn't see it. That's what the 3 guys are saying. I also did not see the net come off its mooring.
The puck was nowhere near it, and of course we don't have an opportunity to go back and look at instant replay. We do from up here, but certainly the officials do not. But they're going to bring it out of the zone.
Yeah,
I think they said we don't know, so we're not going to punish UMass Boston for it. So they come out of the zone for this faceoff.
and Hobart was worried because if the net was off its mooring, they might rule the goal off, so they didn't want play to continue, but it actually benefits the Beacons.
Oh, and here's an opportunity. Beacons try and break. Is there a pass on? It gets just away from Ethan Nitkin, and Hobart tries to break with 35. Pass up front. There could be a slap on. How about that sacrificial play by Nitkin?
Yeah, turn it over on one and get back. Make sure they don't have a chance on the other side. Good play by Nitkin, who then gets tangled up, and a chance for 3-on-2.
25 seconds. Beacons looking to break. Shot comes in just wide. On the attempt from Walker. 12 seconds. Hobart's going to have a look here on the 2-on-1 to win it. The pass, the save by Best with 6, 5, 4. Are they going to get a shot off? 2, 1. The look, and it's just wide at the end. And this one goes into the books as a tie.
Wow. Let's just take a moment to recognize how good that final minute of 3-on-3 hockey was. Phenomenal. Either side. Best with the big save on one end. Mason, I think both of us were wondering, do the Beacons have enough time? Good look from Andy Walker, who was able to find Krupinski, and that goal likely would have counted. It would have been up to the referees, but a really big save by LaSalle, and what a phenomenal hockey game we had today. Hobart gets a big point, a 4-point weekend. The Beacons get 4 points as well. And UMass Boston, if nothing else, kept themselves in it. They're going to need help, but at least kept themselves in it. They stay in second place heading into their Final Four. They've got the 9th and 10th place teams in 3 of their Final 4 games. The Beacons can take care of business over their next 3. At worst, they should be looking at a chance to secure that second seed when they play Skidmore on the final day of the regular season.
You always want more points, Seth, but I have to say, if you told Coach People Isle that he comes into a weekend against Elmira and Hobart, 2 teams ranked inside the top 7 of the national polls, and you come away with 4 points, you'd say you take that every single time.
Yeah, especially after the way that the Beacons played last Saturday against Southern Maine. A huge win the night before against their rival and former travel partner Babson on the road. To only get the 1 point against Southern Maine felt like a massive, just a massive letdown. To get 4 points this weekend especially, hey, you got the first 3 against Elmira. It took some of the pressure away from today. Today was not a must-win game, and I don't think it showed necessarily in the tactics, but it definitely felt like the Beacons were a little looser. It's a great game. 2 really, really good hockey teams who I'd really enjoy seeing again in the postseason. I think the Beacons would much prefer playing here than going all the way up to Geneva, New York and playing in the cooler. But it would be great to see these 2 sides again. And to be honest, we've talked about seeding a little bit. The top 2 seeds do make a difference, not only for hosting a possible semifinal, for avoiding one of the other top 6 seeds in that first round of the NEHC. You don't want to play an NEC, a Skidmore, a Norwich in the first round. You'd really rather play a Southern Maine, a Castleton, a Johnson and Wales, and I'm missing somebody. I'm missing whoever's in 8th place right now in the NEHC standings. because that's likely who you would play. All 10 teams do get in this season.
8th is Southern Maine.
8th is Southern Maine, and 7th is New England College. So, okay, New England College isn't too shabby, but you'd rather play an NEC or a Southern Maine, especially Southern Maine, because NEC is receiving votes right now.
They are.
That's how deep the New England Hockey Conference is. 7 of the league's 10 teams are receiving votes. Huge for UMass Boston to come out the way they did this weekend. I don't think this is any kind of a letdown. And now we see what the Beacons can do when they need to pick up 9 points in these next 3. It's essential. Anything less will feel like a bit of a failure. I'm going to say that right now. And I'm sure Peter Belisle
will say the same thing.
Well, no, I'm sure he would say it differently. Because
he would say it differently, but in his mind it's the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, Johnson and Wales is the 9th place team in the conference. You're playing a home-and-home. Friday night's going to be senior day for Johnson and Wales. They're going to come out. Saturday is going to be senior day for UMass Boston. Senior days are always difficult. Sometimes you have players trying to do too much, emotions, this, that, and the other. But that needs to be 6 points. Castleton, you beat them 11-0. You've won, I think, 13 or 14 in a row. So the Beacons need to win that one, and then Skidmore, anybody's game. I can't predict which Skidmore team we would see in that contest. So great game today. We'll take a commercial break, finish it up, but a really, really good weekend of hockey for UMass Boston.
We had to break. Tie 2-2 between UMass Boston and Hobart. Don't go anywhere. We wrap things up after the break.
Psychology is about understanding the individual and understanding the mind and understanding how it affects others. The main reason why I want to combine psychology and business degrees is because I want to understand the business decisions that are made. I'm Nurçin Çelebi. I'm from Turkey originally. I'm a senior at the 5-year BA to MBA program at UMass Boston. Right now I'm doing an internship, so I will be starting to get experience in the field. And on top of that, getting an MBA and adding that business edge to my psychology degree. I think in management, the biggest mistake you can make is to not listen. So I want to be able to step into a company and say, here's what you're doing now, and here's how you can improve it in order to get the best out of your people, and in order to actually have people coming in here with passion. I moved here when I was 16 for high school. Moving from Turkey, it was a rough journey for me because when you don't really speak the language that well, and when you don't really fit in the crowd, it's very easy to disappear. But I decided not to give up, and UMass helped me. It was really a blessing for me to come to UMass Boston because it helped me really grow and show me that I can do things on my own. I wanted to be able to improve myself. I wanted to be able to try new things. And I think UMass gave me a really good head start on that.
I'm Elizabeth Clavin, sophomore business management major from Edina, Minnesota. I love being a part of this volleyball team. Volleyball is what brought me to UMass Boston. I looked at our recruiting website one last time and saw UMass Boston on it, came out for a visit the next week, and it kind of hit all the boxes that I was looking for. In a good city, good academic school, good volleyball program, it had everything I wanted. Although it was far away from home, I knew this is where I wanted to be. Winning 6 back-to-back LEC titles is really a dynasty, I think, and Terry has really focused hard on recruiting and building this dynasty and continuing to build a program that can continue to win championships, and it's really lucky to be a part of something this great. Last year, I was the Little East Conference Defensive Player of the Year, All-Conference second team, NCAA Regional MVP of the regional tournament, ABC All-Region Honorable Mention, and New England Women's Volleyball Association All-Rookie Team and Honorable Mention. I think my favorite game would have to be playing in the regional championship last year. We played against a really good Williams team, and I think that match, we started off a little shaky and lost the first set. We've lost in the whole playoff season, and I think that kind of shook us a little bit. We came back firing, and we're ready to go those next couple games. Our coaches are bringing in a lot of really strong girls who want to make a commitment and make an impact in this program, and I think that is why we're continuing to do well and will continue to do well for the next few years. Being a student here has been really awesome as well. I've recently started taking more of my business classes and found that it's a good choice and a good fit for me. And eventually, I hope to open my own business and kind of be successful and do what I love at the end of the day.
UMass is very public service focused, and it piqued my interest, and I started doing more research on it. I'm very focused on what can I do to make the world around me a better place. My name is Lydia Grasso. I'm a junior at UMass Boston studying sociology and minoring in human rights. What I want to do is I want to work with women and children transitioning out of sexual slavery in Southeast Asia and helping them to find jobs, find housing, provide counseling, just the things that we kind of take for granted. Because I won the Chancellor's Scholarship at UMass, it allowed me to go to Cambodia. I was working at the Sihanouk Hospital Center of Hope in Cambodia, and it was just an amazing opportunity to just be able to get firsthand experience working with a human rights research project. Cambodia was really ravaged by a genocide, so there's a lot of rebuilding that's happening. I was in the place of something horrible that had happened. I could either go home and kind of forget about that experience and kind of block it out, or I could do something so that things like that never happened again. UMass provides me with opportunities that I wouldn't get anywhere else and gives me a global perspective in a public setting. I definitely transformed at UMass.
UMass Boston is founded on a notion of impact. The Center for Peace, Democracy, and Development is a place where faculty and students can take a lot of the concepts and ideas that we are teaching in the classroom and take them into the field and actually make a difference. Beyond our work in Boston, we have projects in Nigeria, Israel, Palestine, Northern Ireland, South Africa, Ecuador, Colombia. Through our work in the field with a lot of important actors like the U.S. State Department, with the U.S. Agency for International Development, with the United Nations, I think we've gained a reputation as a place that can help a lot of these actors solve their problems and can get things done, and also that have a student body that they want to hire when they finish working with us. Nigeria may seem, it is, a world away from Boston, but many of the things that I've learned in dealing with Muslim-Christian peace efforts is tremendously relevant for situations here in Boston and other parts of the United States. Dealing with issues between police and youth, or police and immigrant communities, and that's a lot of what we do. Creating networks of relationships where people can work out their problems and can find better solutions than the ones that violence offers. Because in the end, we're all in this together. We only thrive when we work on these sorts of solutions to our problems together.
My name is Kirsten Morrison, aka Keek. I'm a senior here at UMass. I'm in the Exercise Health Sciences program, and I play volleyball, basketball, and softball. I came here for volleyball, and I chose between basketball and softball, and I went with basketball my freshman year to play, and it's always kind of been a thing that I wanted to do.
We take a look at the final stats from this one. A chess match for the most part, with no goals scored in periods 1, 3, or the extra session. 4 goals, 2 apiece in the second period. Beacons battling things off. We'll meet the 3 stars, but outside of that second period, goaltenders standing tall, Seth.
Yeah, I mean, both goalies played really well. There were tons of great chances. I think UMass Boston felt like they could have won. I feel like Hobart definitely deserved to potentially get a goal early in that third period. They came out really strong. The Beacons took them a while to get into the game, maybe even 9 minutes into the third period. That was Hobart's best period of the game. And in the end, a really entertaining, if not all that many chances in the overtime session until the final minute when both teams had a chance to score. Really, really fun hockey game, certainly closer than the 8-4 game up at the Cooler, and interesting to see where these two teams end up, because right now they're at 1-2, and if they get the job done, could be 1-2 heading into the tournament, and potentially, if things fall, or if the favorites win, they could see each other again in the NEHC championship game.
They certainly could. Beacons do go 0-5 on the power play. They'll want to improve that number. They do let up 2 power play goals, but they hold firm on a couple Hobart power plays in the third period. You see the penalties, 5 against UMass Boston, adding up to 15 minor penalties on the Beacons between these 2 games against Hobart. Hobart committed 3 minors for 6 total penalty minutes. Next up, we take a look at the 3 stars of the game. We mentioned the goaltenders, both LaSalle and Sam Best, having great days so far. But
Well, we lost graphics, but we can bring you the 3 stars.
We can still bring you the 3 stars. We know who they are.
Yeah, Sam Best, 30 saves, another really strong performance where I don't think he was at fault for either goal. Liam LaSalle would have liked to get the first goal back. Nothing he could have done about the second one. Nolan Barrett was really good today. Scored a really nice goal that gave the Beacons a 2-1 lead. Played a ton in that overtime. Had a couple chances. He and Michael Krupinski had the best chances to give the Beacons the lead. Not necessarily how you draw it up, but it just shows that just because you're listed as a defenseman doesn't mean you can't get into the offensive portion of the game. Both of these sides had a lot of defensemen getting involved offensively, and a really strong performance from either side. Nice to see that neither team came out flat after having to sit around for 24 hours.
The only other NEHC game going on today took place between Norwich and New England College. You mentioned that New England College is a team that is receiving votes despite their being lower on the table, and they gave Norwich all they could handle, but it is the Cadets who come through with a 3-2 victory in that one to pick up all 3 points against New England College. Looking ahead, Seth's mentioned it a number of times, but the Beacons have an opportunity and really should pick up 9 points from their next 3 games. They have the home and home next weekend with Senior Day for Johnson & Wales Friday, followed by Senior Day for UMass Boston here on Saturday. That will lead into the final games of the regular season. 2 road games 2 weeks from now against Castleton and against Skidmore. We can't bring you the graphics, but that doesn't mean we can't thank our incredible production crew. From MJ to everybody else, my broadcast partner Seth Orensky saying so long from this one. A thrilling delayed game against this Hobart team finishes in a tie. Your final score from Edward T. Berry Ice Rink.